Yeah, the big donut reveal is coming, folks. So get your heart pills ready.
All right. I got two. I mean, I got a dozen, and they gave me two free, so I got like 14.
Oh
But
wow!
I'm only gonna eat
What
two.
kind of what kind of
I
donut shop you buy a dozen? They just hand you two? That's
It's
awesome.
the best. Well, it's a donut shop called Christie's Donuts. It's
Okay.
right near my house.
All right.
I live in the same area that I grew up in, so I've seen this place literally my entire life.
Wow.
My entire life. I'm 43, and I went there for the first time in my life a month ago, and they actually have really really good donuts. Really just fantastic donuts.
I will tell you, folks. By the way, that's Josh Keaton. You can see the words on the screen. You know that's Josh Keaton. But hey, if you didn't know who Josh Keaton was or is, he's still in is. Thank goodness. He's an actor. I would say voice actor, but he's also done the on camera. And I did the on camera back in the '90s, but he still does it apparently. Still does it occasionally, right? Or is it all just VA now for you?
It's mostly VO now.
Okay.
But there's also performance capture and stuff. Definitely
Yeah.
need to get a haircut. My haircut's not scheduled till Tuesday, so I got the the emergency.
Yeah, or you could just, do the Jason Statham
nice.
like I do. But that's because that's the only choice I have left. I could just take it down, right? Like I'm in Knock Stock 2 Smoking Barrels or Hobbs and Shaw. It don't matter. It's all the same for him. Right. Right. But Josh is, a lot of you Apex fans will know him as Fade, the newest legend. He's in Apex Mobile, which my son is crushing. Apparently
Nice.
he can kill at Apex Mobile.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, yeah, newest member of the Apex family here is Josh Keaton. But, hey, we're here for coffee and donuts, all right? So, first of all, get your coffee. Mine, the usual, Starbucks, just, boilerplate coffee.
This is home
And-
brewed, and
See, did you make your own coffee, I take it?
yes, and my wife bought a milk frother, which has been fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, like she just got a real cheap milk frother, and it's great because I don't know if you can see it without me spilling. I can froth up my own milk, and
Wow. So, I didn't know you needed a milk frother, but there I am,
Well,
folks,
nobody-
2022.
I was going to say nobody needs a milk frother. I think everybody needs a milk frother. I mean,
Yeah.
things you can froth.
Right.
That's
So for the donut reveal for me, today we're running with chocolate and, yes, bear claw. And my God, this is like Ty Cobb's catcher's mitt. Or,
That is an absolute unit of a bear claw.
good God, people.
Yeah.
Should I have not left that as a choice? Because that thing is a brick.
That is a nice.
A brick o' sugar. I'm just glad I had my yearly checkup this past week instead of this coming week, because they'd say, sit down, Chris. We want to detain you for a little while.
Please consult your doctor before.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about the donuts, okay? And your little stream.
All right, so here's what I'm going with. My absolute favorite donut, and this is I guess this is even like pre-boomer. This is like silent generation
All right.
stuff. I love old fashions.
Man,
I love old fashions.
that is old timey.
The glazed old fashions are my favorite, and what I like to do is I like to like
Just break off a piece.
squeeze off and then be left with the inner ring and then eat a tiny donut and feel like a giant. It's
Wow.
my thing to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, he bought that at the 1896 World's Fair. So
Yes. Ah, yeah, I got myself a donut. Huh?
yeah.
All right, so I got that, and then the other one that I got is ube.
Oh wow.
For anybody that doesn't know what ube is, it's a kind of sweet potato, and it's quite delicious. It's kind of got a very vanilla-ish flavor in a weird way. I don't know how to describe it. It's delicious flavor,
That's awesome.
and it's purple. It's like a purple potato, so they make the donut purple.
That's my wife, my daughter, my mom's favorite color, and it's a sweet potato derivative. So hey, awesome.
They have ube shakes, which are delicious. Basically, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, this area transitioned very quickly from a community with a very, very small Asian minority to one where it's very, very Asian dominant. And so you saw a lot of big changes in the food culture around here when I was growing up in high school. So like very, very quickly, almost like within a span of 2 or 3 years, like a bunch of the restaurants changed. So we have like the best Asian food ever.
Wow.
Like anywhere out here. I mean, obviously that's a very presumptuous statement. I understand that there's probably better in places, but in terms of just a concentration of variety, it's incredible because like when I was growing up, it was all first generation people that were opening up their restaurants, and so a lot of it was more traditional. And now their kids, who I went to high school with, are grown up and have opened up their own restaurants. So now you see, alongside those traditional restaurants, tons and tons of fusion and all kinds of like new fun stuff, but still with, you know, their cultural influence, and it's fantastic. Like there's never a lack of incredible food options around here. So,
Yeah, L.A. is a great foodie town, that's for sure.
yeah.
Anything you want to eat, there's a neighborhood. Like L.A. is like 60 neighborhoods patched together.
Yes.
In a huge, I mean, they call it the TMZ, which is the 30-mile zone. So it's this sort of 30 square miles, I guess, between what, Malibu and, I don't know, I don't know what the edge of the TMZ
I'm not sure
would
where
be.
it would be either. I know I'm definitely out of that edge because I live in a suburb,
Right.
a little bit outside of LA, like a little east of East LA.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean that's kind of California in general. You know, it's just so spread out, and there's little enclaves everywhere.
Well, I moved to LA in '97, which, by the way, was the year I probably would have heard your first work, which is in Hercules.
Yes. Yeah. Well, not my first work, but yes.
No, I would say, okay, when I would have first heard your work,
Yes.
because I IMDb'd you, you got a nice list of credits there, young man.
Well, you know what? We actually worked together kind of unofficially. I mean, we can't still disclose the name, obviously, because we signed NDAs. But we did a table read at Disney for a thing.
Right. It just never went. The thing never went.
Never went, but it was a cool thing.
Yeah.
And I remember you were narrating.
Yeah.
Narrator extraordinaire here.
Well, thank you.
And I was reading in a few small fun parts. But I remember that. That was back.
Well, that was
in the last of their days.
my God. I think I had 2 kids at the time. That would have been maybe 7 years ago or something. I mean,
at least 7 years ago.
yeah, okay, it might have been more. My daughter's 8, and I can't remember. And I've got, I've just things get fuzzy after you have kids.
Yes.
You know
It's
that.
called baby brain. Yes.
Yeah, baby brain. Baby brain kind of stays with you forever, as long as you have your kids on your mind in any way, shape, or form. But yes, I remember that because it was, for the most part, it was Hispanic actors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought Josh Keaton. Well, that's not the most Hispanic name. Then I realized, the last name doesn't have to sound Spanishy.
That's correct. Yes.
There is such a thing as people.
My mother's last name is Navarro.
Yeah, exactly. There is such a thing as people having names that don't conform to what you think they're supposed to be.
That's true.
And still being from anywhere. So, yeah, exactly.
A lot of people have stage names and all that kind of
Right,
stuff.
exactly. And I always thought that it was super cool that I was meeting these people who I didn't usually cross paths with, because back in the old days, 7-8 years ago, there wasn't as much. I mean, it used to be the demographics were almost just completely separate in the way they would cast things. And things have opened up in a big way now,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just remember thinking, and my wife is a Venezolana, so I'm always trying to work on my Spanish. It's not,
My wife is Cubana and Uruguayana.
Yeah, so what, Cuban, Uruguayan?
Yes.
That's quite a mix.
So our kid and my father's Jewish, so like we have our kids are Perjubaguayan. That's we figured it out.
Perjuvaguayan.
Perjubaguayan.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Gotta have the Cuba in there. Gotta have the Uruguay. Gotta have Peru.
All right, now, how much of that culture gets into what you grew up eating, what you grew up, the music,
Quite a bit,
all of
actually,
that?
because my not on my dad's side. That was kind of not, I wouldn't say tossed to the wayside, but it wasn't really focused upon as much. I mean, we celebrated Hanukkah, we celebrated Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things that of the Jewish faith that we were exposed to growing up, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself a practicing Jew.
Right.
Or anything. I'm more Jewish, if anything.
Jewish adjacent.
Yeah, Jewish adjacent.
Yeah.
Like my grandmother and my grandfather were the ones that really took care of us a lot, because my parents both worked. My dad sometimes worked 3 jobs. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I had 3 sisters that were kind of in the business in various ways. And so, one of us was always at a dance class or or working as an extra on something or in a commercial or something. So like, my grandparents really watched us a lot. So we grew up speaking Spanish, and we grew up eating my grandmother's cooking, which was amazing. My favorite thing that she would make, and my wife just figured out how to actually make it, was this soup called yacochupe, and it was this green soup. It was like a green potato and cheese soup, delicious. And chupe is basically a word for soup in Peru.
All right.
And then yaku is green, so it's green soup. But it's weird because it's made with like a lot of, like, it's got a certain kind of mint, black mint, I think, which is very, very close to cilantro in terms of family, but I can't eat cilantro. Like, I hate cilantro. When I have cilantro,
Really?
It feels like somebody just dumped a whole container of soap in my plate and just kind of mixed it.
I love cilantro.
Yeah, like, well, we have a genetic difference. There's a gene that if you don't like cilantro, you have this gene. It's called a super tasting gene.
Interesting.
And you basically taste cilantro for what it is. And if you don't have that gene, apparently it tastes great. It tastes like citrusy or something. I've heard it described, but
Right.
for me, it's soap. But funnily enough, there's cilantro in Peruvian cooking, but it's blended up or cooked in a way that it's not offensive to me. Whatever is in there is somehow neutralized.
Okay.
So I grew up eating a lot of that. Obviously, beans and rice are going to be in any kind of Latin cooking, some variation of that. So yeah, I mean, it's cool that, like, I mean, my wife grew up making different versions of that, obviously,
Right.
But she's an amazing cook, so she's been able to adapt with her knowledge of cooking, how to do this, and then mix them up and put a little bit of the flair of each culture in there, and you got some delicious food. So,
Nice. By the way, hi to everybody on the chat. We just,
what's up, everybody on chat?
Perplexity, Human Sass, Witty, let's see, Laundryman. Yeah, if you got your donuts, join us, please. I wiped out my chocolate while he was talking, and all I have left is Johnny Bench's heirloom. So, yeah. Now, okay, where did you say your wife is from again?
She's Cuban and Uruguayan.
Okay, Cuban and Uruguayan. All right, that's right. And you?
She was born in Florida, so she's from the other side of the country.
Oh, well then, was she born in like South Florida then?
Yeah, she was born in I want to say like Miami, and then grew up in Central Florida.
Yeah, I lived in Orlando for 4 years, so I grew up in Savannah, Georgia. Yeah, and so instead of going straight to LA, I thought, let me go where I can get my training wheels off. Make mistakes, not as many people will see them. And Orlando's great for that. And you notice the amount of Puerto Ricans in Central Florida is kind of proportionate to the amount of Cubans in South Florida.
Yes.
And they've blended a bit. And I haven't been back to Florida in a while. But there really was this weird thing where I don't know why everybody from PR decided, let's go to Orlando. Maybe because they thought, I can't stand Cubans. There's too many of them in Miami.
I'll have to ask my wife.
And yet,
she'd be able to shed some light on it.
In Florida, Cubans and Puerto Ricans make like they don't like each other, and yet I met a Cuban girl out here in LA, and she said, "I don't give a shit about that."
Crazy, just seeing, because I mean, yeah, there's definitely you'll see cultural intolerance.
Oh God, yeah,
everywhere.
My wife, Venezolana, tells me, she says, "Oh yeah, it's racist here, Chris, but let me tell you about Venezuela, how racist it is." Because my wife is black and Latina and European, so she has extremely curly hair. She had an afro as a kid. But she has lighter skin, and she says, I constantly was an outlier everywhere I went. Yeah. And she says, you will see this in every culture. I don't care where you're from. The lighter skinned you are, the more people tend to get opportunities. And she says, that's changing, of course, but that used to happen everywhere. And frankly, I've never met anyone from a culture that I didn't like or dislike just based on their culture. To me, it's always been, let me spend a few minutes talking to you. Yeah. But it is funny.
That's how it should be.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's
everybody just on their own personal merits, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we all aspired to. But I do think it's funny to meet somebody who is Hispanic, Spanish-speaking from anywhere other than Mexico. And when they get out here and they start learning the Spanish that is spoken here, which is, there are many differences in the Spanish that is spoken in, say, Florida and the Spanish that is spoken in California.
Oh, yeah.
If you say coño in Florida, It does not mean the same thing
That's right.
as saying coño out here in California.
There's so many. My wife and I laugh about these. Oh man. And even there's like she still has a little bit of a Cuban accent.
Yeah.
Not much. I mean, it's pretty Americanized by now. But when she speaks Spanish, she does. Very, very strong Cuban accent when she speaks Spanish. And so I've been learning like the differences in Spanish versus Puerto Rican versus, you know, certain things that they'll drop, like the word for door is puerta.
Yeah.
But in Cuban, it would be like almost a D. It would be like puerta.
Really?
Yeah. And in Puerto Rican, it would be like puerta. And again, these are not hard and fast rules, and you know, it's varying degrees, but that was super interesting to me.
Yeah.
Super interesting to me seeing that's a pretty massive difference. Or ¿qué es esto?
Yeah.
In Cuban would be ¿qué es esto?
Really?
¿Qué es esto? Yeah, it's crazy. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, I love learning all this stuff.
Oh yeah, like I'm using, like I can practice a little bit with my wife, but the Spanish I'm learning is Rocket Spanish Online. And I used to use Rosetta Stone a few years ago, and they're teaching me, you can select, do you want to learn Spain Spanish or do you want to learn Latin American Spanish? I said definitely Latin American. As much as I love the beauty of how Spaniards speak Spanish, it's not going to be as practical as learning it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because first of all, nobody cares if I say...
Perfecta, yeah.
Yeah, it's like... If I... ¿Qué es esto? They're going to look at me and say, where does this motherfucker think he's from? All right? Yeah.
But if you go to Spain, you know...
If you go to Spain, it's like, oh, yeah, he's from the neighborhood. He's from El Barrio. Yeah. But...
Well, they would know you weren't, but, you know...
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but thank you for trying, you know.
Although I do think it's funny that Canelo Alvarez, pure Mexican, but looks like me. You know, basically looks like Conor McGregor's cousin, right? Yeah. But that's the lesson to people is that, you know, it's not a monolith. You can be from anywhere, look like anything, and that's... My
mother-in-law is like 100% Cuban, came here on the Pedro Pan flights, and she's paler than you are.
Right. Like, that's hard to say. That's hard to get... It's hard to hit that point.
And then my mother is like... She's like native Peruvian descended. Like my family on that side is like Inca. Like my grandfather spoke Quechua and all of that.
Oh, really?
Like dark.
Yeah, see, that's getting
very,
deep.
Very native features like black eyes and thick black hair.
Right. That's getting deep into it. Yeah, because the Incan culture goes back, I don't know how many thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I would love to visit Machu Picchu one day. I want to go there, and I just want to see if I feel any spiritual connection, because that's actually where like my ancestry is from the Highlands.
Oh yeah.
And so I'd love to go and just see what I feel.
Apparently we're not college students, so you know that apparently that's everybody who goes to Machu Picchu is apparently somebody in college on a travel abroad visa.
I think I was there when I was 2.
Two?
Honestly,
okay.
I don't remember a thing. So
well, apparently
I don't know. I'd have some kind of a different job as like a memory.
We all call it Machu Picchu, but apparently the locals call it Machu Picchu, I think. Something like
really?
that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I could be wrong and frequently am, but according to my Rocket Spanish cultural lesson, because they'll teach you Spanish and they say, now it's time for a cultural lesson. Let's learn about Dia de los Muertos. Okay.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Oh, yeah. It gives you a little bit.
Then
I'll double check it with my wife.
Sugar on my face.
It's like, okay, baby, is this true about Venezuela? It's like, yeah, more or less. I'll pick up Venezolana slang from her when she'll be watching something. And I don't know, maybe it's not slang as much, but just the amount these words are used. If she sees someone on TV she doesn't like, it's que bruto, or que tonto, idiota, or what is it? She said, oh, that is so mamarancho. I said, what is that? She goes, just being low class.
I like saying bobo.
Bobo?
That's like a I don't know if it's Cuban. Maybe it's more Caribbean and not so specifically Cuban, but just for idiot. And I think that's a hilarious word. Yeah, bobo.
Yeah. And every now and then she'll say something. Then she'll look at me and she'll say, you cannot repeat that. Okay. She said, you can't say that around Spanish speakers. All right.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And when her family is there, because her parents live down the street from us, the Spanish just flies through the air, and I can't grab it. It's demasiado rápido para mi entender. Tratado, pero algún día entenderé. But
You got it, man.
yeah, I can. That's my problem is I can pronounce it fairly well because of my voice actoriness.
Sure.
But then somebody will hear it and think, "Oh, he's fluent," Brrr, and hit me with something. And I'll just go,
Supersonic speed.
¿Puede repetirlo, por favor? I have no idea.
Despacito.
Yeah. Cameron on the thread says he lives in South Africa. You have 11 accents there due to there being 11 languages there.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and on the
Melting potness of our species.
Oh yeah,
Which is pretty amazing.
I think that's the great part about it is that like I used to joke on stage when I did stand up because I'm really pale skinned. I've never done the 23andMe, but it would probably all just say Ireland, Scotland. Stop asking me. All right, it ended right there. You're a cul-de-sac, but.
A cul-de-sac.
Yeah, you're just a genetic cul-de-sac. You hopped from one island to the other, and that's all you ever did. But my wife, being as dark skinned as she is, I said, I am breeding skin cancer out of my family as quick as possible.
There's probably some sort of a genetic truth to that.
Yeah.
Where just on some sort of a subconscious level, there was part of you that sought out who you're with because of that. Like the desire to evolve that out. Like there's probably something. It's probably transmitted in the pheromones. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But I used to joke, and oddly enough, she likes redheads. She said that's always been my type.
Interesting.
And I know. And I always used to joke. I mean, I grew up in the Deep South. Some of that culture maybe bled into me where I thought, I'm just going to marry the girl next door. You know, we don't put on airs here. I'm going to marry a nice, simple girl next door. But I love all women. I think they're all beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Because somehow over the course of my life, I just started to find Latin culture just fascinating to me. There's a passion and a vibrancy to it. And I used to joke, you know, if I ever went to South America, I'd come back with a bride. I know I would fall in love with somebody there. And I met my wife at the Getty Museum. Oh, wow. And I know, yeah. And so, you know, it's about as international as I could get. Yeah.
I've never been to the Getty Museum.
You've never been to the Getty?
I feel like such a terrible Angelino because that seems like one of the landmarks that you have to.
That is.
I've been to the Tar Pits. I've been to the Peterson. I've been to I don't know, Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You got to go to Bob's Big Boy.
You got to go to Bob's.
That was actually the first place I ate when I flew out to L.A. I came out as a comic. I was doing a showcase set at the Comedy Store that night, and that morning I flew out from West Virginia where I'd finished a gig. Wow. And my buddy who lived in Burbank picked me up and said, let's go to Bob's Big Boy and eat.
That's a change. West Virginia to Bob's Big Boy Burbank.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, that morning I was in Charleston, West Virginia, and then I drove 6 hours to get on a plane in D.C., flew 5 or 6 hours to get out here, took a nap on his floor, and then he said, let's go to Bob's Big Boy. And amazing. Sure enough, there I was. But yeah.
Bob's Big Boy was the first place that taught me that my mom made terrible spaghetti.
Yeah.
Like, it was... and again, it's nothing really against my mom at all. It's that we didn't have a lot of money. We were, like, really house poor. Like, we had a small house in a nice-ish neighborhood, and that's because we moved into that neighborhood so we could move in and be in that school. Like, that's all we had. So like, we literally had the TV room, the family room was literally the TV room. There was a TV in it. Like, and there's no furniture in this thing. Wow. There were like 2 pillows you could sit on, and there was a TV, and that's where you watch TV.
Right.
But I mean, it was really just it was a money thing. Like, spaghetti for me until I ate the first time I had spaghetti at Bob's Big Boy. Up until then, spaghetti for me was like top ramen noodles and like tomato paste.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew.
Oh,
with
yeah.
a little bit of ground beef in there. And I mean, there's still pleasant memories from that because like I always looked forward to spaghetti. But then when I had it at Bob's, and again, Bob's isn't like the best Italian spaghetti and all that. It's not. It's just, it's very generic diner spaghetti. But that was the first time I had it, and I had the garlic toast and all that. I was like, is this what spaghetti is supposed to be? Oh my God, this is amazing. And then spaghetti became like my thing for the longest time. Like anytime I would go to a restaurant, I would get spaghetti and I would feel so great about it.
Yeah.
and now I'm kind of a spaghetti snob because I can make spaghetti and I make good spaghetti, and so I'm just like, I don't need to go to order spaghetti at a place. I can make that at home.
You have one of those pasta makers then?
What?
You have a pasta maker then? Because you're a spaghetti.
No, don't have a pasta maker. Still just, but I can, whatever pasta it is, I can always get it al dente.
Okay. Al dente. Yeah, I don't know if I could do al dente. I like it.
I love al dente.
Yeah, it's
because I like leftovers, and if you don't, if it's too much past al dente, it's soggy mess tomorrow.
All right. So yeah. I've never had bad leftover spaghetti. Something about it marinating in the fridge for a day still makes it amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I hear you. Speaking of which,
spaghetti is fantastic.
Yeah. We are still on the donuts.
It's my favorite thing with bistec apanado, which is basically a thinly pounded flat steak.
Right.
That has been breaded and is it fried? No, it's not fried.
Probably lightly fried, maybe.
Lightly fried, yeah, like pan fried, I guess. And then tallarín verde is basically like it's a spinach pesto, so it's like green spaghetti. Us Peruvians, we love our green shit.
Yeah, that is something about that.
We are tallarín verde, like it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
There's some good Peruvian restaurants around LA too, and the thing that struck me about them is we went to, like, my wife used to live around Manhattan Beach, and there's a Peruvian restaurant there. And the one thing they do, I mean, most Latin American cuisine does this really well, is any kind of chicken, any kind of pollo. They have a lot of ways to do it.
Oh yeah.
But there was a Peruvian restaurant in, where is it? You keep going south. It's not quite in Orange County. Let's see. It's before Huntington Beach. I have to pull up my map now. Palos Verdes.
Okay.
So, we almost bought a place in Palos Verdes, and while we were looking around one day, we thought, a Peruvian restaurant. Not only is the food amazing, it's like $4. I mean, I don't know why they charge so little.
I mean, that might have been a family place. Like there's some. I've seen some Peruvian places pop up that are trying to be like super super fancy, and so like they'll give you like the little tiny plate, and that little tiny plate's like $25, and I'm like, I don't want this place. Like, I want to go to the cheap hole in the wall place.
Yeah.
That's like what was it? There was this place called Pollo Inca, which no, not Pollo Inca. It was now it's like.
They almost always have Inca in their name
or
somewhere.
Sol, something with the sun, you know.
Yeah.
But there's this one, like maybe 10 minutes away from me that's Sol Inca, I think it's called. I can't remember what it's called, but massive portions. Like literally, when you order the tallarín verde with the bistec, like they hand you like a 2-pound plate of food. It's amazing. It's like
the Incan Cheesecake Factory.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. We actually just went there for my wife's birthday to Cheesecake
nice.
Factory.
Yeah. I used to joke about the Cheesecake Factory. They send you out food on a plate that's the size of a trash can lid.
Yes.
If you get through that, they come back by. Did you save room for dessert?
Yeah,
lady, I don't have room for my thoughts right now.
One of our 2,500 calorie slices of cheesecake. And the answer is always yes, I do.
Why not?
I do want that slice.
And then I'm going to walk out of here like a crocodile that just ate a wildebeest.
I seriously waddled.
Yeah.
The whole way out. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, I never learn from this. I always do this every time. And then I wonder why I'm waddling.
Yeah.
I like to stay hydrated. I like to drink water. And so whenever I go, I'm always drinking water. And
always.
So like by the time like they'll bring out bread, I'm the amateur and I always eat the bread. So I've filled up on bread. I've probably by the time my meal gets there had about 4 full glasses of water.
Yeah, so you're 2 pounds up already.
So I'm already 2 pounds up. And so I'm 2 pounds up trying to eat the meal, and then I want to have that dessert because I've been looking at that dessert menu since I got there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to have this dessert. But I don't know, like I have this thing where I guess maybe just from drinking all that water, a lot of that is just air and gas intake, because about halfway through the meal when I'm starting to tap out and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't save room for dessert. Yeah. Oh man, I'm starting to get sweaty. I'll all of a sudden like have the urge to just burp, and I'll get a couple like really good ones out. And it's almost like once I do that, I'm reset. And everything, the food fog just kind of lifts.
Back at 1.
Sitting there, I'm back at 1. I can eat again, and I'm like, sweet. You got any? You gonna finish that? You taking that home? She's like, don't even look at mine. I'm having this tomorrow. And I was like, okay, but you know, if you're not hungry, you know where you know where to put that. And yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that cheesecake now.
It's time for another episode of Josh versus Food, ladies and gentlemen.
Nobody understands where I put the food because I'm not a tall guy.
Right.
I did gain some weight over COVID, which I'm almost completely shed of now.
Yeah.
But oh man, yeah, COVID, like without even thinking about it, I got to the heaviest I've ever been. Like
yeah.
I'm not tall. Like I'm like 5'8", 5'9".
Okay. Average height.
Yeah, average height. And you know, when I was like at my buffest, like I did this thing called like the Even Stevens movie like a good 12 plus years ago. And when I did that, I was kind of yoked, you know.
Right.
And when I was at the best shape I was ever at, I was like maybe 165. Like it's
okay.
But
well,
I was
for 5'8",
like,
5'9", that's
like I was benching, you know, two what was it, 235?
Not bad.
What's 2 plates and a 10? I think that's
2 plates is going to be that's 225.
Yeah, so 2 plates and 10, so 245.
And a 10, 245, not bad.
Now that was my max, you know, like I'd do a couple reps of that and I'd be done. But you know, it was pretty good. It was much more than my weight. I totally just brain farted and forgot where I was going with that. When I wasn't like, you know, lifting and doing all that all the time, I think my weight hovered between like 150, 155. I got almost to 180.
180.
Yeah, I got like 175 is where I would be hovering around, so like a good 20 pounds. And I didn't even notice it coming on. And I think a lot of it is because like, you know, you're around the house, you're not really working out.
You're not interacting with people that give you a look. Not interacting
with people, like you don't really realize how many steps you actually take during the normal course of a day if you have to leave the house. You know, even just going to the car, or just driving. You know, getting out and talking to people, doing your session, walking around, going to the bathroom, going back into the booth, talking to people, going to do your thing again, going like all that walking around, like that's several thousand steps a day. And once you're doing it at home, where literally on the other side of this backdrop is my door. And then on the other side of that door is my bedroom.
Right.
Like this is just a separate bedroom in the house. Like I'm literally like 5 steps away from where I sleep. You know, all of a sudden I'm rolling out of bed to come roll into this editing chair.
Yep.
Doing this, go into the vocal booth hole, you know, stand for a little bit, come back, sit down, edit, go, and now I'm playing video games all day. And
you're burning 6 calories a day.
Burning 6 calories a day, but still, you know, you got nothing to do. You're sitting at home. Yeah, might as well eat, you know. You know, wife made some good food. I'm gonna eat this, and yeah. Before you know it, you know, you're like pushing 30 pounds heavier, and it's crazy. And I noticed that like when I just started, I had to take a break from playing video games. Like I was Twitch streaming, you know, weekly, sometimes more than weekly, and I had to get up. I had to just get up and start doing things that would keep me on my feet and active. I started working on the cars. I took apart both cars completely. Like the interiors of my wife's van and my Tesla, I literally stripped out the entire interiors. And I do a thing called unshitboxing.
Unshitboxing?
Yeah, like every car has like rattles and squeaks and all of that, unless it's like a Bentley. And I just kind of got obsessed with getting rid of them. And it started out on my Tesla because I was like, this car I paid a lot of money for, it shouldn't have any squeaks. It shouldn't have any rattles.
Right.
And I felt like every time I took it to the it's not a dealership because they're all under the factory, but every time I took it to the service center, it would come back with more squeaks and rattles. When they would take it apart, they wouldn't put it back together right. And so when I took it apart, I dynamatted everything. Dynamatting is this like material that's like it's like a heavy butyl rubber that's got like a foil backing so you can cut it. And you basically just stick it to stuff, the back of it, and it makes it heavier. It makes it heavier and less resonant. So when you do it to like a door skin, that door's not going to rattle when you have bass. You know, it's going to transmit less of outside noise into the car. When you do it on like plastic interior panels, those things that normally would feel super cheap and plasticky now feel more substantial and they don't move as much. And it makes everything feel more premium and sound better. So I did that to my car. Then we took a trip to Yosemite, I knew we were going to take a trip to Yosemite, so I knew we were going to take the van. And so I wanted the van to be awesome. So I did all the maintenance on that I had, you know, let lapse during COVID. I did all the maintenance, changed a bunch of stuff, and took out the interior and dynamated the whole van. Oh man, but you know what? It's great. Like it literally you be going on a bumpy street, you don't hear any squeaks, rattles. Like it sounds like a much more. I mean, I took the time to do it, so it is a more well put together car now. But yeah, you notice when you put back together a car that you've taken apart that somebody else has taken apart, you're like, they didn't really screw that in right.
Yeah.
Or they didn't replace that very obviously broken clip, and that's probably why I've been having a rattle there, because that panel is not really secured very well. Or, you see a lot of that stuff. But nobody's going to take care of your thing like you. So.
Right. Well, if the voice acting thing doesn't work out, you can always just say, I'm here
I'll be a handyman.
to unshitbox your Tesla.
Yeah, I can unshitbox your car. I can fix your appliances because I fixed that washing machine and the dishwasher and.
I wish I could say I have an aptitude for that kind of thing, but I don't.
I think more people have it than they give themselves credit for.
Perhaps
you just have to not be scared to break a few things.
Okay,
because I've definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm a lot better now.
Right.
But when I first started doing it, I would definitely put things back together, and I'd be like, "Oh, I got some extra screws here." Yeah. Let's hope I don't need those.
That's where the problem would be, is that I'm intensely curious, but I've learned my lesson through repeated mishaps.
Let me show you how one of the things.
All right, this will be good. Hey, by the way, everybody, I got my vitamins. Got my palm full of vitamins today, while Josh reaches for his kit. This ought to be interesting.
Oh, come on. Did I leave it in my big toolbox? I did.
All right.
Oh, no, it's here. Okay, so two things. I got this toolkit from iFixit. This is not, they pay me to do this. I just support this company because they support right to repair.
Nice.
They're fantastic. It lets you open up pretty much anything.
Nice.
And it has like a screwdriver kit with all the proprietary bits.
Okay.
So like if anybody ever tries to lock you out by using a non-standard bit, you can probably find it in this kit.
Right.
So that, and then this is what helped me stop having extra parts. It's basically little box.
Right.
Every time I do a step, it goes in the appropriate container.
Okay.
So the first thing I take apart, first thing I unscrew goes in one. Second thing, two. Three, and I just follow it backwards. So this is always closed. All the fasteners are in there. Now, obviously, if I'm working on something with bigger fasteners, I have a bigger one in my garage.
See, that would just be my vitamin container, Josh. That would just be...
I mean, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it probably is.
I think that's just a big vitamin container. But
yeah,
I mean, stuff like that. You'll if you want to do it, I mean, you can save yourself so much money. It's crazy. And then, I mean, that whole mechanical inclination and aptitude will help you in voiceover. This isn't just for you, but this is for anybody that's watching that is ever thinking of giving something like mechanical or technical minded a go. Like, go ahead and do it. Like, all you can do is learn. That's all that's going to happen. You make a mistake, you're still learning.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, speaking of vitamins, here we go, folks. They know that this is a little part of my day. All right, I got my fish oil.
Nice.
Got a food-based multivitamin.
Nice.
Got a probiotic, daily probiotic. Might want to look into those. Eating the way you eat.
I should.
Yeah, digestive enzyme for cheat day. Saturday's my cheat day, right?
Okay.
And because I'm 52, going on 53, you got to give your gut a little bit of an assist. And finally, vitamin D, right?
Nice.
So,
vitamin D is good.
Yeah, vitamin D is good.
Like a cheat week because it's my wife's birthday week.
Okay.
So we've just been kind of, throwing caution to the wind. We got fried chicken yesterday and the Cheesecake Factory the day before and donuts today. And
this brings up another interesting cultural point. Back to the Latin culture. My wife tells me in Venezuela when somebody has a party, that's not like a beginning and end time. They just start having it, and it can go for days.
Yes,
and you just keep your door open.
It's done when everybody's gone.
They don't care about how often you come in and leave and come back in. And I thought, that's not that American because we're so tied to our work week.
Yeah, no, the party doesn't end until that last deal that never leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still going.
Yeah. It's interesting to know that that's sort of across that culture. And she used to ask me, too. She would say, hey, how's your dad doing? How's your mom doing? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't spoke to him in a while. She goes, she doesn't comprehend that. She speaks to her mom and dad several times a day.
That's my wife too. My
Yeah,
wife speaks to her mom every single day. I can't remember when I last spoke to my parents.
Yeah, and I said maybe that's that might be more waspy culture, because I know Irish culture, very Gaelic. You know, they're very family oriented. That, you know, Italians, you can't say they're not family oriented. You know, I think most cultures are much more family oriented than people would suspect. But when you get to the waspy folk like me, it's like it becomes very English. It's very stiff upper lip, very, you know, don't air your dirty laundry, don't do this, don't do that. And with her and her family and everything else, it's all, you just let it all hang out.
For me, I feel like there's been like, I wouldn't say like a cultural rejection, because I'm not necessarily like consciously doing it, but it's weird. And this is I'm like, I guess, I don't know if this is a thing. I'm like an introverted extrovert. Like, right. I can play at being an extrovert, and you know, for what we do, you kind of have to be that way and like extroverty. But I'm really not. Like in my private life, like I just kind of recede into my hole, into my cave, right. And so it's a lot of it is just getting so caught up into doing something else. Like, it's weird. Like, I can shift between being completely unable to focus on anything,
right,
and having no motivation to do anything because I can't decide on what the hell I'm going to do, to being completely engrossed in something like taking apart a car so that I can eliminate every single squeak and rattle, and I'll just like get caught up in that. And before I know it, like a week's passed and I haven't talked to anybody. Like, this is where my rejection of that culture comes from. And it's not even like I'm making a choice. I don't want to do this because I don't like it. It's just like, oh shit, I totally forgot, man. I've been working on my car for like the last month, or I've been doing this, and I'm sorry, man, I didn't call you back. And like,
a lot of this
I've had to really work on getting better at that, because it really makes you appear flaky because you are being flaky, but not necessarily intentionally flaky, but nobody knows that it's not intentional. So it's like, there's all that stuff.
Well, this goes back to, you talked about like the genetic trait of tasting, and then you mentioned another genetic trait as well. I can't, the perhaps there was a genetic drive that I wasn't aware of, that I was trying to say, you know what, let's intermingle a little bit, make the family line healthier. A lot of these drives exist, and we don't always know the root of them. But a lot of this is also, my uncle, may he rest in peace, was a psychologist, and I've done cognitive behavioral therapy myself. You learn a lot about personality traits that are ingrained. Some of them you develop because of your environment, and some of them is just factory installed, right? We have our own little rattles, I guess you could say.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and most people are not one dominant thing or the other dominant thing. There are more pronounced traits that we all have, and you can be multiple things. And so that's why in your case, I can identify with that. You can have periods of laser intense focus that can last for a very long time. And then after that, you might be ready to go out and be social again. You might have recharged yourself. But my wife will tell me this. She'll say, you're the friendliest guy. You're very, very social. You can talk to anybody and put them at ease. But when we have company, after a while, even if they're your friends, you disappear. You will go into your office, and I say, because baby, I have to reset. It's too much. After a while,
I can understand that. I can definitely sympathize with that.
Yeah. And so it's not always culture. It is tempting to say, oh, well, if you're from here, then you must be that way.
Oh yeah.
But there is these are convenient ways to characterize things.
Sure.
But within all of that, you're going to find, like, that's why I'm fascinated by the genetic component of it. Just in the way that you have a genetic attribute that does not allow you to tolerate cilantro.
Yeah.
There are other things that are just simply installed in us that incline us one way or the other, which of course can be mitigated. You can change who you are, but it's work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What if I'm focusing so much on the rattles in the car so I don't have to focus on the rattles in myself?
Oh no. Then suddenly hear music playing. Is this a clarity moment? Oh no. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just made a life realization about myself.
Well, they come when they come, right? I could tell you that, like, I have a friend. I guess I'm about 10 years older than you because I was born in '69, and
Obligatory nice.
What's that?
Nice.
Yeah, I know. You can't. Nobody can. You still can't throw that number out there with somebody going, "That's what she said."
Yep,
right.
Nice.
Yeah, we're here to cancel ourselves today, folks. Just stay tuned. Grab the guardrail. But I have a friend who's 10 years older than me. There you go. Yeah. By the way, I'm halfway done with the bear claw. This thing did not stand a chance.
Ube is very nice.
Yes. The bear claw is good, and it's not even that fresh. It's not warmed up or anything, but it's just a mass of dough and sugar, so how can it not be good? But I have a friend.
It's very satisfying?
Yes, I would say it is for sure. Huh? See? Oh, that was a reach. That was a reach. But I have a friend who's 10 years older than me.
Joke was a little bit grisly there.
Yeah.
A little polarizing.
Yes. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I'm trying to come up with something with the word ursine or Ursa, and I'm just drawing a blank. So I'm done. I have a friend who's 10 years older than me, and I would treat him like a time machine. Because he would look at me and say, oh, yeah, I did that 10 years ago. And here's what you're going to be doing in 10 years. Here's the way your life will alter in 10 years. And so I see you got your kid, you put on dad weight. You know, yours is pandemic.
I've got it off. I've got like
3 or
4 pounds to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's back to fighting weight, so don't worry.
Yeah.
He's back to his fighting weight. But I put on...
This isn't helping.
Yep. Around your age, I was about 40 when I got married. And I'm about 6 feet, just under 6 feet. And most of my life, I've always been very skinny. But in my 20s, I started to bulk up a little bit. In my 30s, I continued it. But I would stay in the 170-ish category. When I got married, I was about 185. And it wasn't muscle. It was, and I have my wedding pictures as a reminder, that was your dad bod, right? You need to maybe get that stuff under control. And for me, it just took one doctor's office visit where all the blood work came back. They said, oh, yeah, you're perfectly healthy. But your glucose is 100. It should be under 100. So cut back on the carbs. And I thought, well, I'm going to do more than that. I read up on all of that stuff, and I thought, all right, I'm going to start correcting that. But I had to reach a certain point where I didn't realize that I had put on all this extra weight because you do it just a little bit at a time.
Yes.
Like you said. And I look at my friends who are younger than me, older than me, and I see that these are chapters we all seem to hit just at different times.
Yeah. I mean, like, and yeah, it really is a little bit at a time. Like, I forget, I was reading something that kind of did the calculation where, like, if you have literally, like, one extra cookie than what you would have for your normal caloric intake, over, like, 5 years, that's like 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pulling numbers out of my ass right now, but, like, it's crazy. Like, if you don't change your physical activity and you just add that small amount, but consistently, you gain weight. And I mean, that's what I have to tell myself that I just have to do the reverse of, because whenever you've been a certain way and then you kind of lose that, you know, and gain weight or whatever, and you want to get back there, and it just seems like it's such a daunting task, and it's like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. I don't even have the strength that I used to have, and now I have no time and all this stuff. It's literally just a little bit at a time. Like, it's just consistency. Like, if you do half an hour a day, that wasn't a half an hour a day that you were doing before, but you're doing it every day, you're going to get in better shape. Like,
it just adds up.
It's just going to happen. So
right.
That's what I have to keep telling myself.
Yes.
To not get frustrated, because, you know, when I was in good shape before, I was young, you know, I was in my 20s, and like, your body is just not the same when you're in your 40s. It's
things are possible in your 20s.
Yeah, everything heals so much faster, you know. I feel my voice was more resilient, and, you know, I wouldn't need as much time after a rough session to recover. Like, I was still going out and getting drunk and doing all that, and then doing 3 sessions the next day and feeling fine about it. And now it's like, I'll have like one drink and I'll be like, oh God, I have to work tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Oh no. My time machine friend would look at me drinking in my 20s, especially because I was also working as a comic. So it's just a complete libertine, right? You know, you just go out, you drink, you do your show, you party with the wait staff, you go to bed whenever, you wake up whenever. And he said, when you hit your late 20s, you're going to notice a hangover takes half of the day to get over. It's not, oh, for an hour I'm a little dehydrated. No, half of a day is going to be gone. And he's right.
Yeah.
At, like right around 27, if I had hit it too hard the night before, the first half of the day, total wash.
Yep.
And then in your 30s, it's the whole next day.
Whole next day.
Yeah. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to stop having more than 2 drinks in any 24-hour period.
I don't even really drink anymore at all.
I know.
Like, I'll have a beer every now and then, but
Yeah.
it's not worth it to me. You know,
Yeah.
like the feel, even from like a nice buzz, even the feeling that I'll get from a nice buzz is still, I'm still gonna feel
Yeah.
it tomorrow. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna feel like if I don't go overboard and I stick at a nice buzz, I'm still gonna feel it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be terrible. It's not gonna be debilitating, but that buzz is not worth that. You know,
You're going to be, it's
not
just
worth
that,
it.
yeah, you're going to be
Get
that little bit
diminishing
of
returns. Like,
dehydrated.
before, that buzz was awesome, and the hangover would be like almost non-existent. So I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, dude, go with this." But now it's just like, "All right, hangover's only here, but like the buzz is only like here." Like,
Right.
oh, that's not worth it.
It's diminishing returns, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, before I forget, I do have a Streamly store thing I want to sign, and it's to Josh. Josh, did you buy a Pathfinder Funko and want me to?
I did not. I
Okay,
did not.
good, because and one of my mods is named Josh, and he denies it. So apparently, there's a third Josh out there in the world somewhere.
Hey, man, we are everywhere.
Yeah, you are Legion. So Josh wants me to write "Have fun, don't die," and I will. And you know, I don't know.
Always
You
a good
sign a lot
sentiment.
of stuff. What would you
Always a good
say?
sentiment.
Right here on the clear.
You know what I like doing on the Funkos?
Yeah.
I like to do the quote on the very front.
Right.
And then I like to sign it with my name on the side.
Right there.
Because if you do it all on the front, then now you can't see the pop. you
Right,
know?
exactly. I think that's a good idea. Folks, I'm going to take Josh Keaton.
Yeah, quote on the
voice
front,
actor extraordinaire
sing on the
as the best.
side.
Yeah, so in the front, we're going to go have fun. And this is a Pathfinder phrase. We're gonna get into the fade phrases. Let's see. Have fun. Don't. Have fun. Don't die. Let's make sure. Yeah, they want the exclamation point. Okay, we got that. Now
Nice.
let's put a little Pathfinder on here, and then we are going to. And thank you very much, Josh, out there, whoever you are. There's your signature. So boom, I'm gonna
Nice.
drive that by the Streamly offices later in the week, and they will ship that off to you. But hey, thank you again.
I was just at the Strimley offices like a month and a half ago for a Metal Gear signing. I love that place.
It's a
Really
pretty cool
spot.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they you know, I don't know about you, but I don't travel without my family, and I traveled so much for 10 years doing stand up that, you know, I'm not over it, but I don't do it if I don't have to. So cons for me are not really a thing. I've hardly ever done cons. I did Comic-Con a few times because it's right down the road.
Sure.
But what I love about Streamily and just about the fact that we can do cameos is that you can replicate a certain amount of the con experience virtually. So
Absolutely.
If you
Yeah.
want a message from somebody, you can get it. If you want something signed, you can get it. You can't be right there in person with them, but it's something.
Right.
So I've
I've been doing
appreciate.
cameos too. Like I feel like it's a better experience for the person getting a cameo versus like coming to my table at a con and
Yeah.
getting like a voice recording.
Right.
Because there you're gonna have like the din of the crowd and all of that. Like you're not gonna be able to really hear anything. It's gonna be something that I just have to kind of fart out of my brain in
Right.
like 5 seconds. Versus like if I get a cameo and somebody requests something, then I'll probably just sit down here, I'll write up something real quick and,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll record it. So it's gonna be without all the extraneous sound and
Right.
And it's going to be more intimate. It's going to be more focused and you know more tailored to what the person wants. And
Yeah. Yeah,
and I feel like at least in terms of that, like the recording itself is a better experience.
Yeah.
But,
Like when I first started doing cameos, I would do them. I thought they had to be quick, so I would try to do it in 30 or 45 seconds, and I would do it over and over again until I got it just right. And I thought, wait a minute, I can just talk as long as I want to talk. They're not going to mind. My cameos sometimes are 3 minutes long. Apparently,
I've had a couple of those.
Yeah, I just won't shut up. But I just don't want to miss anything for them, so I just let it rip. And
Sure.
yeah, at a con you can't do that.
Yeah. Usually the ones for those are like, for me, for those would be if somebody asks, like, me personally for advice, or something, I guess, just from me. Like, if it's an in-character thing, I'll usually try to keep it a little snappy or whatever,
Right.
and more focused on what they want. But if they actually, like, want some advice from me
Right.
or whatever, then yeah, I'll talk as long as I need to talk.
Yeah, yeah. Now, yeah, somebody pointed out, it is true, some of our Apex Legends brethren and sisterin are at a con right now in Austin, Texas. Justine, Johnny, and Ben.
Nice.
So the voice of Watson, the voice of Crypto, and the voice of Fuse are in Austin, Texas. Wonderful city. My brother lives there. Keep Austin weird. So if you're in Austin, go see them because they're awesome. Just,
I'm going to be in Chicago next week.
Okay. You doing a
Fan
con there?
Expo Chicago, yeah. Fan Expo Chicago. I will be there Thursday through Sunday. I think I'm going to get an Apex thing printed up, so I'll have something to sign there.
Do that. Yeah.
I mean, I have other stuff for people that
You got a lot of other stuff. Like,
but
what are
I
the...
mean, like, I'm sure I'll get somebody asking for Apex.
Oh, sure. What are the things, like, we'll get into the Apex in a minute, I suppose, but you've got a pretty extensive IMDb. Are there jobs you did, are there projects you worked on years ago that continue to resonate, despite what you might have done recently? Are there things that people continue to bring back to you, even if they were, in your mind, smaller things that didn't take a long time to do, but they've just somehow stuck in the consciousness?
I mean, yeah. I mean, those would actually be like more recent things that were smaller, because I mean, like, when I was young, there weren't really as many opportunities for voiceover because they would really just use a lot of adults that sounded
Right.
like kids.
Right.
Now there's more of a push towards using real kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't do a whole lot of voiceover when I was young, and the things that I did do were usually pretty, like, bigger projects, like
Right.
like Hercules, or
Right.
like nobody's really come up to me for Peter Pan and the Pirates. But I mean, I was one of the Lost Boys. I wasn't like Peter Pan. So unless you really, really loved Curly, and then you're not going to really come back for that. But yeah, I've had some people talk to me about Back to the Future animated series where I was really young.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, most of the smaller stuff that I've done would be more recent. I mean, not even recent, but within the last 20 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Hercules thing sticks in my mind because for me, I was moving from Orlando to LA right as that movie came out. In fact, next week, it'll be 25 years that I've lived in LA. Yeah, exactly. So I had booked, I was just going to drive everything I had in my little 92 Nissan Sentra with the little door dent in it across country. And I booked 2 jobs going out there. I booked one in around New Orleans and then the other one around Tulsa. So I got to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was the first week of July of 1997. And I went to see 2 movies that week during the day. Because when you're a comic, all you do is just go see movies during the day or go see the mall. So the first one I saw was Men in Black. And the second one I saw, Hercules. And
Awesome.
thoroughly enjoyed both of them. And I remembered that because that was my transition from Florida to California. And I was driving into the Dream Factory, and I knew that if I was going to go see movies, I wanted to see the most Hollywood blockbustery movies I could find.
Sure.
So in my consciousness, Hercules is one of those movies. One of those movies that said, yes, come to the Dream Factory. You can be a part of it. This is voice stuff which you love. This is animation. It's Disney stuff you've grown up with. And then it reminded me that they typically work on these things 3 or 4 years in advance. So you must have been recording around 1995.
Yes. Yeah, I was probably around 14 or 15.
Yeah. And at the time you must be thinking, I don't know if this was right after puberty or before puberty, but you're probably thinking.
I was kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah, see that's a wrinkle right there. When you're working on a 2-year project, please don't change. Please don't change. Please don't change.
Well, that's actually why I couldn't do the singing in it, because I originally did the singing, and there's
Really?
actually there's a recording somewhere of me singing the song with the orchestra, because I sang it, and I don't think Disney throws. I mean, maybe they threw it out. Who knows? I know my mom has a recording of it on cassette somewhere in the garage. So
Cassette.
you should probably try to find that and digitize it before it's gone forever. Yeah, I was going through a voice change, and there's like that one note at the end of the reprise where he's holding out the "I belong," and like I couldn't hold that note out as long as it needed to be held out. Now today, with today's technology, it wouldn't matter. They would just, do some Pro Tools magic and auto-tune it, give it the full J-Lo treatment, and it'd be good.
The full J-Lo.
And the thing is like I could hit the note, I just couldn't hold the note.
Right.
You can hit the note, but it's about holding the note. Yeah, I mean it was right in my break. It was literally right in my break. So they had to have Roger Bart come in and pinch hit, and he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was literally right during my voice change, and it was also because that was like the second song. That wasn't the original song. Go the Distance wasn't the original song. There was a song that they did before that called Shooting Star. Okay. Which I think like some American Idol, no, it wasn't American Idol, some Idol, like American Idol type show from a different country, European Idol or whatever, like some winner from that actually sang and released that song that used to be a song that was going to be the Hercules song. Like he released it as a single or something. Wow. I don't even know who it was, but I heard somebody, I heard that somebody did that. I heard that somebody released Shooting Star. I was like, hey, I remember singing that song. I remember being in there with the orchestra and all that. That was a fun time. I don't even know if they do that anymore. I don't even know if like you would actually get in there and sing with the orchestra while it's being live conducted to the way you're singing. Like,
yeah, I wonder.
Probably all track now. I don't know.
When I would still like, I still get to work on The Simpsons. It's the greatest job ever for me.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
Oh yeah, when I would go into the studio, a lot of what I do is remote now. But when I would go into the studio, right next to their downstairs Marilyn Monroe scoring stage or ADR stage, which you must have been on at some point in your career.
Yes, I have.
Right next door to that is their scoring stage. I think it's the Paul Newman scoring stage. Yeah. And it's 20, like, right? Yeah, it's like half a football field. It's huge. You can put an entire orchestra in there. And they do occasionally, I think you can see pictures of people singing and the orchestra's behind them. You can see all these classic shots of people when they were both having the orchestra conducted, but they were recording their audio at the same time with the rest of the orchestra.
Yeah.
And that's from a bygone era. It seems to me that it would just probably be easier to do everything isolated because...
It would, but it just...
It's not going to feel the same.
It's not the same kind of vibe, like it's...
Right.
There's something more theatrical about it the other way, where it really is like you are part of the symphony as the actor.
Right.
Like where you are literally an instrument in this whole composition that is, has to come in at this time and go out at this time. And
right.
I don't know. I miss it too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's an interesting skill set to have, but it's not an uncommon one for voice actors. You meet a lot of voice actors that can sing. And like one of the... I think of, let's see, Gray Delisle. She's an amazing singer. There are numerous ones. And I've never really been a singer. I can mimic a singer. I can hold a note, but it's not really much of anything. And yet somehow Wikipedia thinks I'm a singer. And I can't change it.
If Wikipedia thinks it, then
it must be true.
You're a singer.
But I have the other skill set you find a lot in voice acting is stand-up comedy or a comedy background. So when you talk about how you want to blend in with the other elements of a scene or of a recording, a lot of that you find in the singing world. You want to be able to sing with the band instead of isolating everything. And in the case of comedy, with stand-up, you want to be able to connect with the audience and you want to know the rhythm and the beats. And if you're part of a comedy troupe, you're always mingling within. You're trying not to stand out as much as you're trying to make sure it all fits.
Right.
So these are important elements for folks on the chat who are thinking about how do I build up my skill set for acting and voice acting. Just any kind of performance you can get into is helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
While I'm
and
at it.
I would say even aside from that, any new experience, period.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what skills you are going to learn from that you're going to be able to extrapolate and work into acting,
Right.
Just put in the headphones again. Like you never know if you're going to play somebody that their life is about the thing that you just chose to be your hobby, you know, and now you're
Right.
going to bring that extra knowledge to this part, and those little physical idiosyncrasies, and you know, you might have a way of doing this, like let's say you're playing an electrician, and you know, you flip your screwdriver because you've been doing it this way, and like, so you're going to bring that to the character. That's going to be a kind of little cool thing that the character does. Like, you never know what you're going to learn from the random things you do that you're going to be able to apply to this. You might meet somebody that ends up being an inspiration for a character. When I did the voice for Electro in the PS5 video game, or not just the voice, but the PCAP and all that, that was based on an electrician I had come to my house.
Oh, really?
Like this East Coast blue collar sounding electrician, which was fitting that I ended up using his voice for Electro.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's you never know whose path you're gonna cross just randomly that is gonna, you know, be something that inspires you.
Yeah, and you never know how this is going to show up on screen as well, because, yeah, first of all, as an artist, you have to feed yourself. So you have to have experiences, because art is supposed to be a reflection of life. It's supposed to be a reflection of a person's experience, their expression of a moment in time or something common to the human experience. But it's interesting how cyclical or circular that can become. I think of Al Pacino in the movie Heat. One of my favorite movies of all time. And I'll have to do a video on how much I love Heat. So Al Pacino, to prepare for the movie Heat, he's playing a detective. What does he do? He embeds himself with a few police department detectives, follows them around, picks up on their mannerisms, things like that. Well, this would have been in the early 90s, maybe 94, as he's prepping to shoot Heat. Well, those detectives were all probably in their 30s, maybe a little older. Who did they grow up watching on screen? Al Pacino in Serpico. So what did they do? They learned how to watch Serpico, and they learned, oh, that's how detectives act. That's how police officers act. A lot of their mannerisms came from Al Pacino's performance. So now Al Pacino is learning his own mannerisms secondhand.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. That's the business we're in, folks. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, we have some questions here, too, by the way. Josh was in Voltron.
Yes. Voltron Legendary Defender. That was
All right.
like 5 years ago already. It's crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy how time flies. It doesn't even feel like that.
Uh-huh. I know. You think back to things you did, somebody will say, oh, yeah, you were in this anime. It's like, yeah. What was it like recording that? Don't remember.
I don't know. I was in a box.
No
I was
clue.
in a dark box with a mic in front of me.
Yeah. What was it like recording with so-and-so? We did it separately. I wish I could tell you that sparks flew, but there was a really good director and they edited it perfectly, and I knew that person, so I knew how they were likely to sound. Like, yes. I have never once recorded with Fred Tatasciore for Naruto, but he and I play two characters that are sort of bound together, Hidan and Kakuzu. And I've never once recorded with Fred on that, but you would think that we're in the same room because they have a way of splicing together what we do. I know Fred. I know his mannerisms. He knows me. It's easy to imagine his voice there.
Yes.
That's a lot of what we have to do. Imagine your castmates sometimes.
That's one of the reasons I really, really love it when a show will have you do a table read.
Yeah.
You know, or a virtual table read now.
Yeah, they all are, yeah.
But where you really get to see all the characters in action, because that's going to help you down the line, because, you know, you're not always going to have that luxury of having everybody read together. And,
right.
But if you've had experience with them in character and you know what they're going to be like, then that's going to it's going to feed you. It's going to give you those ingredients and that fuel so that you can you know, kind of game out how you think they would be in scenes that you're not going to have them there.
Yeah. Yeah. One person here, Cameron, is asking what inspired you to be a voice actor, and have you watched Encanto, and what do you think?
We've watched Encanto many times.
Yeah, so have we.
Yeah, it was that was on loop in our house for a while. That movie really spoke to me in terms of my own life, where a lot of Latino families keeping up appearances. And, like my wife and I were talking about it, where we were just like, I forget, she was watching a reaction of somebody that like played it for their mom, and asking them what they thought. And the one thing I thought was unrealistic about the movie is like the mom would never have that realization that she was wrong. She would never admit. She would never. My mom would never admit anything that she did anything wrong.
Right.
So I was like, that's the one thing that kind of stuck out to me. I'm like, that's a little, but I would love to see that. I would love to get that admission in the places where it's applicable. But that was the one thing that was a little less than realistic to me. But again, it's a movie where everything
character has to have an arc.
Wrap up and has to have an arc. And all
Yeah,
that.
they need to have some closure. But
again, I'm judging it through my lens. So
of course.
I'm sure that there's other people that are like, "What are you talking about?" I had this conversation with my mom, and she was great about it. We're great and awesome together now. And
yeah, well, that's where it gets down to. It isn't necessarily culture; it's personality. Because
absolutely.
you can examine any family from anywhere where they might have a family member that tries to do too much, and then the family member that, well, I'm going to be perfect, and I can never let my guard down. I always have to be perfect. And then
I feel like they did a really good job of showing those struggles.
Yes. And for us, like, we very much enjoyed Encanto. My wife and I, we took our kids to see Coco, and they liked it, but they were younger, and I think maybe the underworld might have unnerved them a little bit, all the skeletons.
That movie broke me, man.
Yeah, we loved it, and the thing that my wife kept mentioning to me was the chancla.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The grandmother, abuela, always throwing her sandal and then saying, now go get my chancla, right? She said, that's so Latina.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was that. My grandmother never had the chancla that she would throw. She never even threatened it. My grandfather had a look that was basically a virtual chancla. He would give you a look, and as soon as he gave you that look, you knew you were messing up, and you needed to stop that shit right now. And he never even had to even raise a hand. Like, my grandfather never spanked me, never raised a hand to me. He didn't have to.
Right.
He gave me that look, and I was scared about what would happen after that. So
yeah,
and I didn't misbehave around him.
Yeah. See,
what inspired me would be like, I don't know, man. Like I came into the business through on-camera acting, and then I kind of dabbled around in a lot of different things and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just, I was in a boy band for a while, so I sang and toured and did all that. I think I always did a little bit of voiceover even since I was a kid, but the thing that I really enjoyed about it was when I was growing up, it was different. Diversity wasn't as celebrated as it is now. So there were, all the lead roles were Caucasian roles. And they were not shy about saying, like, they would call it on the breakdown, and breakdown is like the list of things list of parts they're casting for that they would send out to the agents, for people that don't know what that is. Like if a production company wanted to cast a movie or a show or something, they would make the breakdown, which is the list of all the characters, their personality traits, age, all that. And they would send it to the agents. The agents would look through that and say, okay, this person is good for this person, this. And they would send out to their clients who they think should be auditioning for. Well, for like the Caucasian roles, it was always all American. And all American is like, okay, it's going to be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy for this. Or somebody that just looks really, really white. And as Caucasian as I appear, like, I would go into these auditions, and the first question I would be asked was, so what's your background? And I was instantly like relegated. We want you to read for this part. And it would always be like the friend, but like the very, very like off to the side friend, or like the or like the bully, or like the bad guy. And I'd be like, okay. But then when I would go audition for Latino roles, they would look at me and they'd be like, are you Latino? And I'd be like, yeah. And they're like, but you have blue eyes. And
duck in the middle.
What does that mean?
I know.
have you been to any Latino countries? I'm like, there's all kinds of different colors and different complexions, and that doesn't really, so there was basically like, people gatekeeping what you had to be this ethnicity. And I always thought that sucked, it was really, really, it sucked being in the middle of it, where you weren't Caucasian enough to do the Caucasian roles, but you weren't like Latino enough to do the Latino roles. It didn't matter what your culture was. It didn't really matter what your upbringing was. It's just like, well, you're not this shade, or, you don't look like these features are strong enough in you, so whatever. But what I loved about voiceover is that you were able to play parts that you couldn't necessarily play physically. Like, I would never get cast to play Shiro because I'm not like 6'4" and like 225. and I'm not Japanese. Like I wouldn't get cast to play Hal Jordan because again, I'm not 6'4" and 225 and a pilot. But it's it felt like it allowed me to play a lot more roles than I was physically able to play. And that was very freeing for somebody who always was growing up saying, no, you're not right for this, or you're not right for this, or you're not enough of this for this. And it was nice to just be in something. Well, can you play the character? Can you sound like the character? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Hey, Alto Mando. Hey, te quiero también. Muchas gracias. Un millón.
Gracias.
Yeah.
Mucho gusto.
My wife's experience was the same. Like I said, she's in the middle. She's not black, she's not white, she's not Latina. She's all three of these things. But depending on what room she walked into, they say, sorry, you're not enough of this. You're not enough of that. You're too much of that. And after a while, you want to tear your hair out.
Yeah,
and
like seriously.
Right. She said she got more of that in Venezuela than when she came to the U.S., although she would still encounter it. But she said in the U.S., it was the first time somebody complimented her on her hair. She said that never happened in Venezuela. Every girl wanted it to be straight. Whereas here, somebody thought it looked really cool and they told her so. And she wasn't used to that, but she was grateful for it. And it's kind of a minefield, but I have noticed in voice acting, they are getting a bit more, representation is just the best way to put it. They've decided that, okay, we're not going to have, first of all, we're not just going to make all the parts, like you say, Caucasian, or at least we're not going to make all the parts all about that one demographic. And when you say all American, it's true. When you say all American, people immediately think white boy. Yeah. But if you look at America, we're not just a bunch of white folks. I mean, this guy is, but I've always loved the idea that we come from everywhere. We always have. And all American? Yes. American. We take from everywhere because we still give people the opportunities. At least we do right now. I don't know how much longer that's going on. That's a whole nother conversation. But my wife, every 4th of July, I celebrate my wife more than anything. I say my wife moved here without speaking the language, taught herself how to speak it, brought her whole family over, supported them until they could find work of their own, got whatever job she could get, and figured out how to do the job on the job. And I say, to me, she is the most American person I've ever met.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we're supposed to be about. You come here, it doesn't matter what you know or don't know, you just bust your hump to be a part of the fabric. And that's what she's done. So why shouldn't our entertainment reflect more of that?
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
Noku says, loved you in Spectacular Spider-Man. That show is her childhood. Thank you for bringing so much to that character. Would you play Spider-Man again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All they have to do is ask, and I'll even audition. I don't even care. Like that is probably the favorite character that I've ever played, because that was like my favorite character growing up. Like that's what I would read all the time, and get to play him, especially in such a well-received show, was like the ultimate bucket list checkoff. Where that's like a huge career goal that I've done.
If you look at Spider-Man, he's such an omnipresent character in entertainment, in culture, in comic books, in movies, TV, all of that. I feel like I know at least 4 or 5 actors that have played Spider-Man in some iteration. I think I might have even been Spider-Man in a video game at one point, and I'm Spider-Man on the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man ride in Orlando.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, yeah, that's something where you record it and then it's done, and then for the next 20 years, people get on your ride. So,
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the role that everybody would want to play because he's cool, and yet he's always the underdog, and everybody identifies with him.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. He's a perfect everyman. Because everybody has a double life. Everybody has a double life.
Right.
Whatever you put out, whatever face you put out to everybody when you're out, you're not giving out all of your deepest, darkest secrets and deepest, darkest fears and all of that. That's a whole other person that you live with when you go home.
Right.
And it's like that's your Peter Parker. And whenever you go out, that's your Spider-Man. That's the mask you're putting on to everybody. And I feel like everybody can totally relate to that. Even if they're not a nerdy teenage boy, like there's still so much that in terms of just hiding who you are and having to navigate life is, yeah. I mean,
Right.
anybody can identify with that.
Yeah, my mod Colorfinger is saying Spider-Man seems like a rite of passage for voice actors. True. Like, apparently, if you're an Australian actor, you have to be on this soap called Neighbours. It's been around for forever. And if you're an actor, then you have to be on that. I think if you're a voice actor, at some point, you need to have worked on a Spider-Man project.
Yes.
In some way, shape, or form. And, like Kevin Conroy is Batman, but there have been several Batmans. But I guess if you were to narrow down...
Batman.
Yeah, exactly. The Batmanest of all the Batmen.
Yes.
Right. But yes,
He's
a
my
lot
Batman.
of... What's that?
He's definitely my Batman.
Yeah. And so a lot of
Robert
people...
Pattinson was great, though.
Well, yeah, I mean...
He was fantastic. I was not expecting him to be so good. Like I was so proud that he's shaken the Twilight curse. Like, and I mean, for it being as much of a multi-million-dollar curse as it was...
Yeah, it's not the worst curse to be saddled with.
It's not the worst curse at all. But
right.
Like he really pulled himself out of that. I see him as Bruce. Like
right.
He was great. He was great.
And
this is really happy with that movie.
This is kind of the age we're living in. When I grew up, Batman to me was obviously, I knew the comic, but Batman was reruns of the 1960s TV show.
Yes.
Which was never supposed to be anything but high camp. Just nothing but, I mean, Bruce Wayne with kind of a gut, It's like, doing the Batusi, right? Yes. All just really over the top, but a lot of fun. And then when Tim Burton makes Batman the movie, we all thought, oh, this is going to be good. And it was still, it wasn't in the real world. It was tilted, a bit askew, still had a comic booky vibe. And
still wearing its unitard.
Exactly. And so Michael Keaton, you're thinking, Michael Keaton can't be Batman. Sure, we're going to put a suit on him. And he's got the gravitas. You'll see. And he was. And then Val Kilmer, which I enjoyed. But, I mean, Joel Schumacher basically says, I'm going to make this the comic bookiest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then George Clooney, who Clooney doesn't like to talk about it. I don't blame him. But then you end up with Bale. And for me, the first time that world lived up to like the detective comics aspect of it was Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan. Because he said there are no superpowers in this world. There's no Superman. There's no Poison Ivy. It's a detective story. Yeah. That's what it is. And to me, that completely turned everything on its ear. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. I like Batman the best when it's in its kind of noir vibe.
Right.
That's when it really sings for me.
I did think it was kind of a stroke of genius to make Colin Farrell the Penguin.
I did not even recognize him.
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize him, and it was to the point where when the credits rolled and I saw that he was Penguin, I was like, I almost gaslit myself into thinking, like, wait, is Colin Farrell the guy I'm thinking? Like, I almost forgot who Colin Farrell was in my head, where I'm like, that can't be the same guy. No, I'm thinking of a different person. Colin Farrell, who is? And then I had to Google him. Google him, and then his picture came up, sans the makeup and the fat suit and all that. And I was just like, oh my God, he was unrecognizable. Unrecognizable.
If you want to see just how good Colin Farrell is, I can think of 4 movies right off the top to tell you this guy is a character actor trapped in a leading man's body. Really? Minority Report, playing just almost a throwaway part because there's not a whole lot to the character, but he's just this American detective. You wouldn't know anything else about him, but he's an Irish actor playing this. Mm-hmm. And then you see him in, let's say, The Penguin, right? You see him in that. And then see him in Bruges, which is a fantastic movie. And he's playing more of a character from where he's from, very Irish, but he's a hitman, but he's a screw-up. But there's a lot of really wonderful moments that he has. And then see him in Horrible Bosses. And you realize, oh my God, this guy can play anything. And that's awesome. If it's high comedy, great, he'll do that. If there's some pathos, he'll do that. If there's some quiet, nuanced moments, he'll do that. If you want to cover him in latex, he'll do that. I mean, that to me is a definition of what a sort of jack of all trades can do with the craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
You love to see it. All
You
right.
do.
Well,
You really do.
okay, so how many people here on the thread have played the mobile Apex version? Because we don't have Fade on the online, on the platform, I guess the Xbox, it's all online. So the mobile version, I'm looking forward to seeing if they bring Fade into...
I hope they do.
Yeah, I don't know if
They
they've
do.
hinted
From what I've
at
been
that.
reading online, like people really like his moveset, and
Right.
that'd be cool.
Yeah. Did they obviously, the process of playing the character from the time that you're first cast and then you do your recordings and the time the character appears can be quite a few months. I mean,
Yes.
with Pathfinder, I was part of the original cast, and so I think I was cast in the game in 2017, and then we started recording in 2018, and the game didn't get launched until 2019. How far in advance?
This didn't go that far. This
Yeah.
probably was a few months
Okay.
before. I'd say I probably auditioned for it maybe a month or two before I got the part.
Okay.
There was a callback, so yeah. So there was probably a couple months worth of casting,
Okay.
and then recorded it. And I'd say I don't know, maybe 6 months.
Okay.
5-6 months before he was actually added to the game.
Right.
Might have been a little bit more. I'm not
Right.
sure. Everything's kind of a blur with COVID. Like that 2 years, it
Yeah.
literally is like we were in stasis. Like the time passed, we aged, but I don't feel like it passed. I still feel like it's 2 years ago. Like I just went out to eat with a couple of my friends from Voltron, AJ and Kimberly, and the last time we had eaten was before COVID.
Right.
It was the last time I'd seen them.
Right.
So I was like thinking to myself, this feels like, a few weeks ago that I just saw you guys.
Yeah.
It was literally more than 2 years ago.
Right.
It was just, I don't know, man. It's messed with my whole perception of time. It's crazy.
It has messed with everybody's perception. That's true. And if you have kids, like I don't know how old your kid is. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old. Okay.
6 and 8.
6 and 8. Okay. So we're right on about the same timeline. They're 2 years apart. And for us, for our kids, we went from them going to school to us talking about, hey, this virus seems to be kind of catching on, and I don't know. Okay, yeah, we're not coming back to school on Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
That was in 2020. That was March of 2020. They never went back to school because we moved. We moved from the neighborhood we lived in. Last year, we moved to an exurb. We're not even in a suburb of LA. We're in an exurb of LA. I can still drive into town. It takes me an hour. But we thought, that's it for going to school in person for them. We're going to homeschool them. And they went from being 6 and 8 years old to 8 and 10 years old.
Yeah.
And they're still in contact with the friends they made from school. One of them's coming over today. They're going to do like a sleepover.
Yeah.
But for us, if you think about it, 2 years out of my life is 4% of my life.
Yeah.
2 years out of your life is, let's see, I guess. All right, now we're doing fractions. We're doing percentages. 2 years out of about 42, 43, it's 128. Yeah, it's about 5% of your life.
Yeah.
2 years out of our kids' lives,
It's like
25%. Yeah, a third, a quarter of your life has been spent in some form of lockdown
Yeah.
or masking up. And that, to me, to see how they've gone through that and have adapted to it.
That's also why I think that time just seems to pass faster the older you get, because each amount of time is just a smaller.
Yeah.
It's a smaller portion of your overall time.
Right.
It's all relative.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why, like, the older you get, it really just feels like there's a jog shuttle dial on your life, and the older you get, somebody just keeps turning it more and more to the right, and everything just keeps going faster.
Well,
Until it breaks and you die.
I have found too that as you get older, now that I'm going to be 53 in August, the person I was at 27 when I first moved out here is not remotely who I am now. There are echoes of him. But the things I thought were true, the things I wanted for myself, the things I had planned for myself, maybe a fraction of that actually came to pass, or that I would still want to come to pass.
Sure.
And you realize that was another lifetime ago.
Yeah.
What's helped me put things in perspective is to think of my life as chapters. This is just a chapter. and it could go anywhere it's going to go, but you get to write the chapter. You don't get to write what happens to you, but you get to write what you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
COVID is a chapter, and hopefully it's a thin one.
Yes.
In the book of our lives.
I'm just doing my best not to write a Game of Thrones season 8 in my life.
That's season 8? Yeah. I remember watching it and thinking, well, they've outpaced the books. I wonder how this is going to play out. Like, I never read the books, but I know that George Martin, was it George R.R. Martin? Is the writer? Okay.
Double R.
He takes a long time to write the books. The series has to go one series a year, like one season a year. We got to do this. This is before, I guess, people thought, well, take a season off and do something in the meantime. We learned that with COVID. But at the time, no COVID, so people thought next year, got to have a new season. And he says, well, I'm not going to be done with the book. And so they started writing their own content.
They should.
And apparently for a lot of people, that's where it jumped the rails a little bit.
It ruined the show for me. Like, it killed the replay of it. Like, I can't watch the previous seasons having seen that because it just ruined the whole show for me.
Interesting. Did you read the books before the show?
No, I never read the books. I just watched the show. And I loved the earlier parts of the show, but that last season just...
I remember... I remember one thing I really enjoyed about the last season was the battle they had at night against the, I guess, what do you call them, the White Walkers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a sequence where all of the Dothraki charged into the distance and you saw all of their torches.
Yeah.
And you slowly saw all of the torches go out. And I thought, that's really cool. And then for the rest of the sequence, I thought, who's fighting?
Yeah. Right?
Could they have maybe brightened it up a little bit? Somebody get a hold of the contrast feature and just dial it up a notch? Because I can't tell what's happening.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've turned into shitting on Game of Thrones. That's right. The coffee and donuts goes all over the place, folks.
Yes.
Okay.
It's such a shame because I love that show otherwise.
If you would, tell me what you do remember about when you read for Fade. What do you remember about the breakdown? And how much of... like, he has an accent. You can tell. There's a Hispanic flavor there. There's a culture there. Was that played up a lot, or did they say, no, we want this to be more of a universal story and that only has this smaller aspect of it?
They didn't really specify. Like, they gave a couple of... they kind of just said where he was from. They gave a little bit of background on his life. And it was really up to interpretation.
Okay.
So they would give, like... what would you call them? Like, inspiration shots.
Okay.
So, like... Would be like pictures of people from different shows that if you recognize the character, you might kind of remember what reference they were going for.
Right.
There was and it's never really something where it's like we want this guy's voice or whatever. It's more like, you know, that something in that person's personality is something that we see something like in this character. So there was always kind of like a quiet strength. Like there's one guy oh God, I forgot his name. It was a character on Breaking Bad that there was a picture that they showed of.
Okay.
Among the inspirational shots, and I remember he always had like a very, he was very observational, and he had a lot of quiet strength. Like he never really played all of his hands. He always had something else going, and so that was really what I took the inspiration from. But yeah, it was pretty left open to interpretation. So yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot given. They're really secretive with these things. I didn't even know it was Apex Legends until I was like halfway through the session. They
give you a different code name, and
totally
this is standard OP for projects now because of the the accessibility of the old interwebs that everyone has. They have to be extremely secretive because it especially, this doesn't really happen with seasoned actors, but newer actors can't wait to tell their social media tribe what they're working on. Or they'll say, oh, I'm auditioning for something really big today. And even then, that makes kind of people get a little nervous. It's like, could you just not say anything? Take a picture of your food. Do that, please.
Shut up.
Shut up. Just because the people out there are very crafty and they put two and two together. Yep. But especially in the case of Apex Legends, like I didn't know anything about the game. I didn't know anything about the Titanfall universe. I'd never played it. So I just thought I was reading for yet another game. I mean, you and I, we've done a lot of games.
Yep.
Projects come and go. I didn't know it would become this. But for the people that have come after, who are aware of this universe, for them keeping it quiet becomes even more important.
Yep.
So another thing to remember there, kiddies, if you're starting.
I think that the sides, the script, for those who don't know what sides are, the audition script, had some of his Spanish lines, because I think they wanted to make sure that, you know, the person could actually speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I mean, they basically said that it had to be somebody that had a Latino background. So.
Right. Yeah. Now, when you make choices as far as auditions go, like for me, I've always been kind of a grip it and rip it guy. I don't like to overanalyze. I like to be very instinctual. And that served me well with stand-up, because I would read the room and I would adjust. And I kind of like to do that with my copy for voice acting. I don't like to overdo it. You have to give it some thought.
Sure.
But I like to go with my gut. And a lot of times my choices are just very unconscious. Are you more deliberate when you decide how you're going to read a character, or do you just sort of go with how you feel?
I'm probably in that same school where I basically, when I'm reading it, I try to imagine as much of like the picture in my head as I can.
Uh-huh.
Try to imagine the setting. I try to imagine, you know, blocking. I try to imagine just as much of the situation as I can. I try to fill that in, and then I just kind of let the character run. So it does become more instinctual. Again, like, I don't really necessarily overthink stuff unless it's something where, I mean, if it's something that if it's a character I've been playing for a long time, then I'm probably going to think more into it. So I'll like have other little situations like, oh, what would happen if like this character went and was in this situation, and I'll just have like a random situation, and I'll kind of like game that out, and just, you know, for fun.
Right.
And so I'll think of stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, usually if it's in the scene, you're limited by the dialogue, obviously, and the situation is it's not complete improv, so you can't just like, you know, throw everything to the wind. But yeah, I mean, it's usually pretty instinctual. Like I'll read it, I'll make my choices, and you know, put a takedown in my booth, and I'll listen back to it, and I'll see if it kind of fits the picture that I'm going with, or, you know, maybe I want to try something different. You know, maybe I'll start it in a different place, start it in a different frame of mind or different energy. But
right.
But it's usually I usually like to let it play out. Like it's the other reason why, like, if I have a back and forth, I like to take that usually as one. Instead of doing like, you know, the set of three of this line and the set of three of this line and the set of three of this line, and then they go and cobble it all together. I'd rather do a take of the scene.
Me
where,
too.
You know, you have that organic back and forth.
Yeah.
Because it's going to lend a different energy to the pacing and all of that. It's just going to feel more real. Because it is. It actually is a response, instead of you starting off the line with that, or starting off the conversation with that line. Even if you're trying to make it sound like it was a piece in an already existing conversation, you know, it's not going to have the same energy and the same flow as if you really were in that conversational flow. So
right, and you'll see that if you know what to look for, especially on camera. It can be harder to pick it up when you're watching something animated, because so much of it is pasted together. But if you're watching an on-camera scene, say in a movie, you know, usually when you have, say, let's say we have two characters talking, and you'll know this, obviously, from your on-camera days, they'll do your establishing shot, and then they'll do an over-the-shoulder, and then another over-the-shoulder, and they'll put that all together. And you can tell sometimes when something has just been, oh, they must have gotten that one line on hour 4, and the rest of it was at a different part of the day. And it could be just because the audio crapped out on the other section. They had to pick it up from somewhere. This might have been ADR'd. These things, it's very rare that you see one unbroken take. Yes. Just the logistics of it. So anytime you get actors that have a chance to play a scene all the way through, they're going to want that.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to make it real.
Absolutely.
Let's see what else we got here. If you have any more donuts, feel free to jump into them. Although we know you're trying to.
I have them out there, but I've had 2. I shouldn't eat any more.
Yeah, exactly. I've finished. I don't know how I finished that bear claw. but
That was a big bear claw.
that was a big bear claw,
huge
and
bear
now
claw.
it's gone. And I don't think I ever really broke a sweat. So that
Nice.
might be it for the that might be it for the cheat day. I think that might be it. Okay, if anybody has any other questions, we can let them rip. But I usually like to go for a couple of hours and then wrap it up. One question I have for you. Did they
Yes.
have you come into a studio to read at all, or did you do it all from
No, it was all from here.
all from home?
All
That
from
is,
home.
yeah, more and more. I know there are studios that like to bring people back in.
I'm still going in person sessions. I'd say that,
Okay,
but like I'd say 85% of my work is from here. now.
Right.
Whereas before it was like 10%, 15%.
yeah,
It
and
was mostly promo or commercial I would do from here, and anything
Right.
animated I would do out there.
exactly.
It's not that anymore.
No, and I don't mind recording from home. I'm happy to go in if somebody insists that I have to. But if you have a good enough setup in your house, I'm sure you do, you should be able to deliver similar quality to whatever they're working on, especially
Oh,
if you
yeah.
have something like a U87. I've got an SM7 and a KSM32. They're pretty good, and a professional booth, so the acoustics are good. I've got, as we all have, we have Source Connect. Now, there are a couple of jobs where I know that you have to go in, and even if they're not going to be there, it's because, like you said, everyone else is going to be there.
Right.
And so the equipment consistency is very important. Even if your stuff is great, it's not going to sound exactly like what it's going to sound on if they have
Yes,
their
yeah,
own
I don't
stuff.
have a U87. I have a Sennheiser 416. I plan on purchasing a U87, but I haven't yet. But maybe everybody was recorded on a U87, and that's just what they want to hear. And,
Exactly.
because that's another thing. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. But for people who are not in this business, like I've had a lot more auditions where at the end of the audition, they want you to basically run through your gear setup.
Yeah.
So basically, what kind of mic you're on, what kind of preamp you're on, if you have
Right.
Source Connect. So I basically have to say, I'm recording into a Sennheiser 416, going into an Avalon M5, into an Apollo, and I have Source Connect. So
Right.
if they wanted a U87, they'll probably be like, well, he's got to come in.
Yeah. What is it about the Sennheiser 416 that made you want to grab that? Like, I grabbed a KSM 32 back in 2003. I went into a Guitar Center and I said, I want something that is specifically for voice acting, not singing. But I will
Right.
be doing voices. I will be getting loud. And they said, this is a pretty good choice. And at the time, it was like $1,000 mic.
Yes.
So you can get it for about $400 or $500 now.
Yeah, and I mean, you could even get new ones a lot cheaper than $1,000 if you get their B stock, because Sennheiser
Right.
sells B stock mics,
Right.
and they're functionally perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They have the exact same warranty as a non B stock mic. They might have a little tiny chip in the finish somewhere, and when I say might, I mean might, because I have two of them. I
Right.
have one in the booth, and I have one that I'm talking to you on right now, and the one here is a B stock mic, and it has no chips on the finish at all. So I
Right.
don't know why it's a B stock mic.
Right.
No clue. But it was about $300 less than a regular brand new one.
Right.
I got the 416 mainly because I would see two mics in studios consistently. I would see a 416 and I would see a U87.
Yeah.
U87 was like $5,000.
Yeah.
And 416 was like $700.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to get this 416 until I can spend $5,000 on a U87. But the other reason was I'm not in a big space. This room that I'm in right now is a converted bedroom. Which I've insulated the walls and I got a solid door and good seals and all of that. And then within this room is a vocal booth. So I have like a vocal
Right.
booth within a treated room. But that vocal booth, I had to buy that vocal booth at like the very beginning of like when I started doing promo.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like a contingency where it's like, if you get this job, you have to have a booth in ISDN.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get all of this stuff in like a week.
Ah.
And if I had to do this again, I would not buy from this company. It was like vocalbooth.com or whatever. Maybe they've changed their stuff now, but the quality of the vocal booth, I had to do a lot of work to it to get it to sound decent.
Right.
It sounded like a box. Like it
Okay.
literally sounded like you were reading inside a box. And it wasn't without a ton of foam treatment and bass trapping and all kinds
Mm-hmm.
of other stuff that I was actually able to make it sound good. So
Right.
it sounds fine now, but it didn't sound fine when I first got it. But the thing about shotgun mics in general is that they reject a lot of off-axis sounds. And for those who don't know what that is, I will explain it to you really quickly. I will use this straw here as a shotgun mic because
Right.
they're shaped like a little. Well, they're thicker than this, but they're long and thin like this. So basically, if you have like, I'll use this can of compressed air as a cardioid mic. So if you have like the kind that hangs down in front of you, like this,
right,
and you're reading into it, it's got like a diaphragm, which is like a disc-shaped thing right there. And that can usually read everything in front of it, like that. And if you have it turned a certain way, it'll read everything 360, but you don't want that. You just want the one in front of it. But what it does is it captures so much, the axis that it captures sounds on, it doesn't just capture sounds that come in here, it captures sounds that come in here, here, here,
right,
here. And so because of that, you hear a lot more of the room. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a room that is not like a really great vocal booth or a really big open space, you hear it. You hear the walls, essentially. You hear the reflections come back, and the axis is big enough of that diaphragm where it's going to pick up all those reflections, and you're going to hear more of the room. With this, that is the axis. So
right.
Anything that comes in from here, not going to hear it. Anything that comes in from here, not going to hear it. I mean, you will, but not nearly as much. So this just really does a good job of rejecting everything around here and capturing your voice. So for a small space, or for something where you're going to have a room that is going to be coloring your sound, a shotgun mic is usually going to be a much better choice than a large cap condenser, because you're going to hear less of the room. The more you can treat your room, then the more you can start using those condenser mics, or the large diaphragm condensers. Because I think the Sennheiser is also a condenser mic. It's just a shotgun.
Yeah.
So that's basically, like, if I had to give any advice to anybody that wants to get into voiceover, I would say the gear and how much you pay for the gear is less important than your actual recording space.
Right.
If you have the choice between buying like a $300 shotgun mic and a $1,000 shotgun mic, and you haven't treated your recording space, I would say get the cheaper mic, take that $700 or less than that. You don't even need even anywhere close to $700 to treat a room adequately. Treat your room. Now, $700 is not going to soundproof your room. Soundproofing your room is a huge ordeal. Like, you actually have to put mass-loaded vinyl in the walls. You got to float the floors. You got to decouple everything. Like, you get into many thousands of dollars to soundproof a room. This room isn't soundproof. It's cuts out a lot of sound, but it's not soundproof. To do
right.
that is extremely expensive. But what you want to limit the most of is just reflections. You want to get rid of echoes. I haven't treated this room yet.
Yeah.
So this room, I stripped off all the treatment I had before so I could paint the walls and make them all smooth, because I also wanted to use this for a space for like self-tapes and all of that, so I needed better lighting. So I'm going to make my own sound treatment panels, but you can definitely hear the room in here right now. You can definitely hear
there's a little
bit
bounce.
of a boominess.
Yeah.
And that's because this is a square room. I have curtains here, I have a carpet here, but everything else is just, a box. It's 90-degree angles, square panels. I have bass traps here, but I don't have anything really on the ceiling. I don't have anything on these walls. There's nothing on that wall. Once I get this all treated, it's going to be flat in here. Like, you won't hear any echo. And it's going to be great. But all of that is stuff you got to do. You got to treat the space first. And that can even work in like a closet. If you have a closet with clothes hanging in it, boom,
perfect.
You got sound. It's perfect because it's got weird angles. You got shelves that are going to scatter some of the waves. You got clothes that are going to absorb some of the sound. So I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive. You could treat your room for $50, $100 if that. You might even just have a great closet that sounds amazing on its own. So the space itself is more important than the mic.
Yeah,
within reason.
Right.
That's my massively long-winded way of saying that's why I chose the 416.
But these are important things because, for better or for worse, and I talked to my agents about this too, they have thrown the doors wide open for a lot of casting. Not necessarily for a lot of the games we may work on and maybe for some of the animation, but for a lot of other projects, they cast all over the country. And a lot of these people have their own setups at home. And some of them, I don't want to lose jobs to them, but I do want to be of help. If acoustically your space is not happening, that's really hard for them to correct.
Yes.
So, a mic that is decent in a fantastically acoustically treated atmosphere, they can do a lot with that. They can do a lot on the other end. And to your point, we used to have a place we rented. There were his and hers walk-in closets, and it was carpeted. Once you hung clothes in there, you might as well been recording at a professional studio. There was no bounce, no echo. You could hear a pin drop. And for voice acting, it's perfect. For singing, my wife would rather sing in a bathroom. She says, I need that echo. I need that bounce. I need it to come alive. And if I ever had to submit a singing audition, I realized I don't know if I should submit it inside my booth, because the voice, there's something that gets robbed when I'm singing in an atmosphere that is designed to dampen everything.
Sure.
So as a singer, do you ever try to lay down any vocals for anything and think, I got to do it in a different room?
No, I actually have a couple different things that I use for that. Like, I'll run it through a different pre.
Okay.
Or I'll set up an aux track that'll have a little bit of reverb on it. But it'll be like reverb from a bathroom or reverb from like a small studio.
Yeah.
The one that I actually really like to use a lot, back during my singing days, I recorded about half, not half, about half of my album at the record plant in New York. And
That's a legendary space.
Yeah, they had room A, B, and C, and I would record in C. And one of the reverbs that I have on my Apollo Quad has the plate reverb from room C sampled into it. So they basically did an acoustic recreation of this reverb unit.
Wow.
And so I can use the same reverb unit that I sang on when I was recording in New York.
Now,
I mean, it's a digital reproduction of it, but it sounds pretty close. And so I just do that on an aux track where it doesn't actually print to the track. It's not printing the reverb that I'm hearing, but it's busing it into my headphones. So when I'm listening to it in my headphones and I'm monitoring myself, I hear the reverb. It's just not printing the track.
that's an interesting point. I am non-technical, but to me, if they could find a way to give you an acoustic atmosphere digitally, despite wherever you may be recording. I mean, obviously, you can't just go into the middle of a subway platform and record something and have it sound like room C. But if you could record in a place that was reasonably acoustically treated, is there a digital bolt-on?
Yes, they have this. There's a lot of different reverb units that can do that. And it actually started out with a technology that they had called mic modeling, where you would basically select the kind of mic you had, select the kind of mic you wanted it to sound, and the computer, the plugin was able to basically transpose it in a way to where your 416 now all of a sudden sounds like not just the U87, but like the vintage ones.
Right.
Or it sounds like, what was it, that big chrome mic that you would see like all the crooners using in the 50s. Oh
yeah, God, I wish I could. I think Disney has one.
Was it RCA? Was it an RCA
Probably,
mic? Or,
yeah,
the ribbon mics.
Yeah,
you can make it sound like that. So what they've done now is they have certain things that you can basically sample your room and it can apply like room correction to it, where it'll kind of take into account the dimensions of your room and where your position in the room is. And from the reflections that it's able to pick up, it's able to say, no, those aren't the right kind of reflections. This room would have these reflections. And so, I mean, there's ways to do it. It's not perfect, but there are ways to do what you're talking about.
That is very interesting, and they're going to keep improving on that to the point where, like people ask me, oh, what software do you use to record on? And they think I'm going to give them something really complicated, and I say Audacity.
That's the thing that a lot of people use, yeah.
Yeah, it's free. My
studio's overkill because I grew up singing, and so like half of the stuff, all the stuff in here came from like a singing studio.
Right.
So like all my stuff in here is overkill. You don't need Pro Tools to do what I do. You don't.
No.
I mean, you can. Audacity is more than sufficient.
Yeah, let's put it this way: the stuff I record on Audacity ends up on productions, right? Just from home. It's simply because it's not because it's cheap or anything like that. I mean, it just happens to be free open source tech, but it records very simply, but it records very faithfully. There are things you can do to it, but as you'll attest, they don't want you doing anything to they want you to record at the right kilohertz, at the right, save it as a WAV file as 24-bit, not 16. Just give us the highest quality, but give us a pristine file. We'll do the rest.
Yep.
That's what they want.
They want to pull it into Pro Tools and then put them all together and chop it up.
Right. They're going to do all the fancy stuff. You just need to give them a nice, pristine blank canvas, and they know exactly what to do from there.
Yeah, I just stick with Pro Tools because that's what I learned on, and I'm fast at it. So like, I don't even pull down menus. Everything is just key command, key command, key command, key command.
Right.
Trackball, 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 trackball. It's like I'm fast at it, so it doesn't make sense to change at this point.
Yeah. Somebody asked earlier, I always think this is an interesting question. If you've been in the business long enough, and you've been working since what, 1990?
Oh, no, since like I got my SAG card in 84.
84?
Yeah.
Yeah, my son got his SAG card just before he turned 7 because he does it, to your point that they're casting more kids for kids parts. He's, a kid and he's getting some kids parts.
Yeah, my daughter too. She's been she did some stuff over COVID and
yeah, that's nice. It's like Carlos Alazraki. I would run into him. It's like, oh, my daughter's working on this. Oh, my son's working on this. And we sat there in the green room of a room we were used to working in thinking, we're not doing anything.
Isn't that weird?
This is, I'm eating the craft service and I feel like I did nothing to earn it. It is weird to go to a place, see a casting director and then sit there and say, no, I'm not working today.
Yeah, no, it's my kid today.
Yeah, it's me. And you think, the torch is being passed. It's like, oh, couldn't book it, huh? I guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody asked,
yeah, when your kid works on a show that you auditioned for and you didn't get.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yes, all right, you got it. I did it.
Yeah. Do either of you gentlemen remember a project you worked on that you can easily imagine would be received differently today? I know Chris once mentioned the legendary Drawn Together era. Yeah, look, I get the feeling that the majority of what I've worked on over the years would be received differently today because things change, mores change, the zeitgeist can change, and it depends on what the show is trying to do. Drawn Together was a show that was absolutely committed to offending you in any way that it could. Yep. If you've ever watched it, you'll know. Watch 5 minutes and you realize they're just trying to piss everybody off, right? So come in.
I'd say I did this Will and Grace double episode. It was like, hi. It was
this is my son. Hey, say hey to Josh real quick. This is the voice of Fade, among many other things.
How's it going?
Hey, Josh. I was actually just finished a match. I'm actually a Fade main.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at the game.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is Remy. He is apparently a predator on Apex Mobile.
Not a predator yet, but I'm working to try and get platinum by the end of the season.
Okay,
awesome.
So he's a big Fade man. So
yeah.
All right.
I'm really good. I once dropped the 20 bomb. My first ever match, 16 kills, won with Kill Leader in Red Shields.
Nice, Kill Leader and everything.
I know. Amazing. So yeah, you. All right, buddy.
So I'm cracked.
Can you shut my door?
That's awesome.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah. So welcome to the Apex world. You're going to start hearing
talk about how good they are at video games.
My
son does the same thing where he'll come in and be like, just telling me about this cool thing he did and how awesome it is, and I'm just like,
20 bomb. He drops a 20 bomb. It's like, what is that? I killed 20 people. It's like, I don't think I've killed 20 people total. So that's just how good they are. But yeah, you were mentioning you did an episode of Will and Grace.
Oh yeah, no, I did like this the Thanksgiving episode of Will and Grace where basically I played Will was Will's boyfriend on the show was a cop, this Italian cop. It was played by Bobby Cannavale, and I played his nephew. I played his nephew Sal, who was this was back when I was buff.
Right.
And he was, this big, long-haired guy that Grace and it was Karen, right? Karen was the one that Megan Mullally played.
Megan Mullally? Yeah, I'm not sure because I didn't really watch the show very much.
Karen.
I was always aware of it.
Grace and Karen.
Okay.
Grace and Karen were basically fighting over this guy. Little did they know that he was 16.
Okay.
So like they end up both making out with the 16-year-old.
Oh.
And like Karen's even more into it when she finds out that he was 16, and I'm like, they would so get canceled today.
Yeah, no,
like,
you couldn't do that.
Everybody would get canceled with this episode today.
Yeah.
They still play it.
Right. I've talked to another actor. I will release their interview soon. But we talked about that. We're the same age, and what we have asked the people watching is, look, you have to give us something that us people who have been around for more than a generation, we've worked on things, we've been a part of things that you may see now and go, how dare they? It's like, look, we're always operating with our best intentions and things change. And as they change, you realize, okay, well, we won't do that again. But at the time, it was seen as perfectly appropriate or funny, or in other words, you weren't crossing that line.
Right. Right.
And that's what I always hope is that have a little charity when you look at the things we've worked on over the years. Just know that we were always just trying to.
Luckily, I can't think of, aside from that episode, I really can't think of anything that I've been a part of that like I would look at now and be like, ooh,
yeah.
Ooh.
Well, yeah.
I think I've been lucky. I think I've been
Yeah.
like I'm really trying to rack my brain for something, and maybe there is something there deep within the bowels of my career that is just shameworthy.
Probably not. I mean,
because I don't know if I would have done it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like at the time, I was
also the stuff that I've done. A lot of is, especially with animation and all that. Like, for the most part, it's like it's marketed toward kids. So I think that there's already going to be more of a watchful eye on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, when I worked on Drawn Together, I was just doing random parts for them, just filling in where they needed me to, and that was probably around.
Utility.
What's that?
Utility. That's one of my
Yeah,
favorite
exactly. Oh, yeah. I'm the Swiss Army knife. That most of my career has been some version of a Swiss Army knife for things, and this was around 04, 05, and they were just the show is just an animated send up of reality shows. And these are two guys that the creators decided that we want to be as over the top as we possibly can. And they succeeded. And I loved it because I had just come from the stand-up world. I stopped doing the road like in 03. And I loved to see people taking it as far as they could go. Because to me, that's the most interesting stand-up, is exploring where the boundaries are. Sure. I have a lot of appreciation for people that can do straight up down the middle stand-up well too. It's a skill. But I always love to see people pushing envelopes. But yeah, sometimes that means when a few years pass, you realize, oh, you were pushing in a different direction there, weren't you, buddy? And so, yeah, it's important for people to just, again, look at things through hopefully a charitable lens. If the intention was just simply to entertain, okay. You know, it's different when somebody's just trolling and they're not even interested in being funny.
Sure.
I always thought Drawn Together always tried to be funny more than anything else. But yeah, they couldn't wait to do or say something that you would go, whoa.
Yeah.
And that was even back then. So yeah, that to me is the one that sticks out for me. But, you know, that's just how it is. Do your kids consume any of your entertainment, the things that you've done? Have you pointed out Dad's voice?
They do. They just started watching Green Lantern, the animated series. They're
nice.
They're fans of that. They've seen Spectacular Spider-Man. I feel unappreciated whenever they play a game that I'm in because they always skip the cinema sequences.
Yeah.
They always skip them every single time. I'm like, oh, the card's coming up. Skip.
Yep, cutscene. Nope, skip.
Dad, I want to play the game. I'm like, but that's part of the game. Oh, yeah. I give up.
I feel like Apex maybe.
Just play it.
Yeah. We used to do this. This is something I know we both encountered. We would record video game sessions, and it would be 4 hours of grenade. Get down! God. Primary through the door. Yeah, medic. Yeah, left turn.
Now you're going to scream like you're burning to death for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, can we have another one?
Oh, I did this.
One more, please.
I did this at Comic-Con a few years ago. It's like, all right, you're being shot and killed by a flaming arrow. Go. And so they said, oh, would you do it right here, Chris, for the crowd? And I almost passed out because I wanted to do it faithfully. Yeah. So you got 4 hours of that, but then you have a cutscene and you go, finally, I get to actually portray a character a little bit more. And then you do a scene with an arc to it, and there's some depth, and there's nuance, and you're parsing out the ways that a character may react. And then in the game, press X to skip.
To skip. It's like, shit.
It's somebody just saying, I want to get back to the game. X. It's like, no.
I just want to hear him scream grenade again.
I worked on that. I think Apex may have cracked the code for that. They don't have cutscenes in the game. You just get in and play. But they have, as you know, shorts and promotional things and trailers that they'll release independently. And anyone who watches it because they want to see it. They want to see it. So bless them for doing that, because that's the time when we really get a chance to show you perhaps why we were cast. It's not because of the way that we say grenade.
Well, it might be. It might be.
Well, that's true. There's a technical aspect to it. People do need to realize if you're working on a video game, there is an art to being able to do that for 2 or 3 hours in a row with the same accuracy as you did the very first take. So yeah, you got to be able to do that. But
they're shooting over there.
Yeah,
they're shooting over here. From the left.
Do you
from
remember?
The right, from the south.
I know that you can sort of leave your body sometimes and look down at yourself reading these lines. You know? Yeah. Do you remember the first time one of your kids saw a show that you were in and you were in the room? Did they maybe turn and look at you?
I want to say the first thing that they would have been, there's this video because they've been gamers since they were real little.
Right.
I'm trying to remember what it was. If it was Knack, there's a game that I did called Knack, and that's actually the game that taught them how to play video games.
Oh wow.
I can't remember. Remember what the first thing was, but I mean, the thing that'll really kind of impress them, because like a lot of the stuff that they would have known me from is some variation of my own voice. Like Peter Parker is just a younger version of me. Yeah. The other stuff is just a deeper version.
Right.
So it's like they kind of see the me in those voices.
Yeah.
Whereas like we'll watch Tom and Jerry at dinner sometimes because I love the old Tom and Jerry's, and I've imparted that love to them, and they love it now. So like every now and then, Spike and Tyke will come on, and I'll just kind of like I remember I imitated Spike once, and my daughter's jaw just dropped because it was just like a voice that is not me,
right?
A voice that she's familiar with, and it's like now it's coming from me, and she was just like, "Oh, how did you do that?" And I was like, see, now you're a little impressed.
Those are the moments we kind of, as parents, I was in a show called Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law.
I remember.
And I did Peter Potamus, which doesn't sound anything like me. Well, my son and my daughter discovered Harvey Birdman, and he watched literally all 39 episodes, just one after the other. They're 11 minutes. It took him a few days. He got through all of it. And every now and then I'll just say, "Hey, did you get that thing I sent you?" And just like you said, that look.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see from your kid. Oh, you like what I did.
That makes all of the times that they skipped your cinema scenes worth it. It's like, okay.
Yes. If you can have that one
moment.
That
little taste of approval. I'll take it. Take it.
Adrian Martinez, muchas gracias, amigo compañero. Tú eres tan simpático, tú eres tan, ¿cómo se dice generous? Generoso? Something like that? Generous?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm making words up now. Anyway, Adrian Martinez, super chatter. Guys, if you have any other questions for Josh, let him rip now because we want to let him go. I'm sure he's got a car that he's building from popsicle sticks or something. He's MacGyvering something around his house.
I know that I'm gonna play Minecraft with the kids at some point today.
Okay. Because
we just started a new world with that Warden update, which is awesome. It's actually really cool. And then there was one other thing I wanted. I have a list of to-do things that I want to get done on the car.
Yeah.
And so I did one last night. There's you know what I noticed when I had one of the side mirrors replaced at one point.
Yeah.
Because when the car was still under warranty, one of them was sometimes it wouldn't unfold.
Right.
And when I took the doors apart to dynamat it, I noticed why that thing's been rattling and making weird noises when I open the door. It's because when they replaced the mirror, they stripped one of the bolts that holds it in. So I have to fix that today. And so the way you do that is I had to buy two of the exact same bolt to replace it. So, I mean, they were only like 80 cents from Tesla. So I have to take one of the bolts and I have to like cut a channel in the top and in the bottom of it so that it's like now a bolt with slots. And then you use that to thread into the hole. And those slots basically function as like little relief holes. So when you're screwing it into the hole that's with the stripped pieces in it, it kind of cleans out those threads and they come out in the slots that you drilled. And then, so you do that, clean out the threads, and then pop in your new bolt, and you're good to go.
Is this what happens when you scale up a piece of technology like that? Things get missed because they've just become assembly line?
No, this was done by the service center. So basically the car had something wrong with the original mirror motor.
Okay.
I took it to the service center. They replaced it, but the tech that replaced it did a crap job.
Yeah,
so
okay.
You put it back, stripped the bolt, and it made more noise.
Gotcha. So, all right. Well,
because it's not under warranty anymore, so now I have to fix all the problems myself.
Hey, this is why you roll up your sleeves and you learn, because that way...
I mean, this would cost me hundreds of dollars to even just diagnose it if I was just taking it to Tesla. And it's like, I know what the problem is. Yeah. It's a 70-cent bolt. I got to buy two of them so I can, use one as the tool. And
Yeah. See, my version of that is when I just changed I changed a lock on a door. I felt like MacGyver then because I
Hey,
thought,
man, it's
something.
It's something.
I said we could get a
Absolutely.
locksmith out here, but it might take a day. They're going to charge me probably $75 plus the parts. I could just drive down to the Ace
Oh, you
Hardware.
sweet summer child. $75 in this economy?
Oh yeah, probably more than that. So I drove down
That'll
to
be the
Ace.
trip charge. That's not even doing anything. That's just coming here.
Yeah. So yeah, fortunately there's a YouTube video for everything.
Yes.
And I just look at the number of likes and the number of views. And I thought, okay, apparently this guy's not full of crap. So
well, YouTube kind of screwed us by taking away the dislikes because usually that's how you would be able to tell if it was a good DIY or not.
right.
If it was ratioed, then you're like, I'm not watching this one.
Yeah, there
And
had
now
to be
it's
something
like,
wrong.
You got
Right.
crappy information that you can't even see that people thought it sucked.
I wonder why they took away the dislikes.
You know why.
You think?
Yeah.
Because they
To protect politicians and to protect companies that don't want to be ratioed on their own things. That's why they did it.
yeah.
Because they were trying to say, oh, it's to protect content creators so they don't have to see so many dislikes. I'm like, they can still see the dislikes. They can still see it. Nobody else sees it. So now you go to like some product like that from some horrible company that's exploiting all kinds of people, and people want to get mad at them, but now they can't. Now you go to it and it's just got likes. Yeah.
This is
Making it opaque. It's making it opaque so nobody has a voice.
yeah, this is what we were worried about for the longest time. I have a journalism degree and I went to college. I graduated in 1991. And the issue we had back in 1991 was, gee, cable news is starting to become a lot more prolific, I guess, in the amount of news they get out there and they share. And cable TV is becoming more and more noticeable in the amount of things they make. Is this going to cut down on what we see from regular network TV? And we still have regular network TV, but people don't get news from it anymore. Not really. Not really. They get it from places where they don't always know where it's coming from. So,
And the local news is owned by like 2 companies.
yeah. So
Like Sinclair is basically most of the local news stations. So if
Yeah.
Sinclair wants you to say something, I mean, I'm sure you've seen all of those compilations
Yeah.
where there'll be like
one talking point.
100 newscasters
Yep.
reading the exact same
piece of copy.
script.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be news. Like nowhere are they saying that this is from our owners or whatever. They're
Right.
like, they're saying it as if it's their own personal opinion.
Yeah.
But times however many thousands of stations they own to all these local populaces, it's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Well, the word opaque is what flipped that switch for me too. Is that it is important that people know how news reaches them and how it's put together and assembled. In other words, you do really want to see this sausage being made, because if you did, you might have a different opinion on what they're telling you. And
what they're not telling you. What stories don't get covered because
Exactly.
somebody might advertise on their station. Or
Right.
somebody might be their parent company. Or
by omission. Yeah, well, that's why Brits have an interesting take on this. They say, here we don't call them newscasters, we call them news readers.
readers, yes.
Because they read the news. They didn't write this.
Yeah.
But you give the appearance for a lot of your newscasters that they wrote it. It's like, that's not necessarily how it happens.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of journalists. We have a lot of paid heads.
Exactly. Buyer beware, ladies and gentlemen. If you take nothing away from this, forget the Tesla door, forget the mic stuff, forget
Yes.
the donuts. All right? Vet your news.
Eliminate the squeaks and rattles in your, in your
Yeah.
chain of information.
That squeaks and rattles in your Tesla is probably a squirrel. Don't worry about it. It'll let itself out. But in
Well, you know what? You know what actually happened in our van because of COVID? When you drive around your car, the heat keeps things from living in it.
Yeah.
Well, we had let that car sit for so long in the drive that the one time I went to go drive it, like during COVID, I had a check engine light come on, and I ran the code, and it's like, why is it giving me this EGR sensor? What the heck? No, it wasn't even an EGR. It was a knock sensor. I was like, I'm not hearing any knocking, nothing. And it said there was a knock sensor malfunction. So I ended up taking it to my mechanic, great mechanic, and apparently, right where the knock sensor wiring goes in, it had been chewed by a rat.
Oh.
It had made its home in the valley of my engine
Nope.
during COVID.
I think everybody probably has that story. You have a mechanic come out and tell you one of two things. Number one, here's why your battery died. Because you didn't drive your car, right?
Yeah.
Because it was COVID, so you didn't take it anywhere. battery just died. It's got nothing left in it. It has to be used. And 2, yes, rats will get into your car and chew on stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. And we have rats all over this city, which is why we need coyotes. But that means keep your pets inside at night.
We have coyotes everywhere. I mean, they're really brazen around here too. Like 11 o'clock in the morning, like they'll just be walking up the street like they had a long night out, and they're just they're hungover now, and they're making their way back to the hills. It's crazy. They're shameless out here. I charge them every time I see them.
Yeah, because you got to make them scared.
Yeah, because it's like I mean I have a big dog, so like he's fine. He outweighs them, and he looks intimidating, but I mean I just don't want him around my house. Right. So whenever I see them, I basically I'll charge at them until they break eye contact and run away. Yeah. So that at least they know, hey, on the corner there's this thing there on 2 legs that you just don't go to that house.
So when you got to worry is when they don't run. Is when you charge.
I'll keep running. I'm not stopping. Yeah. I'm not stopping. I will run at them and I'll lunge it. I'll whatever I have to do until they go.
Yeah. That's the thing about coyotes too, is they're incredibly fast. They're extremely good hunters. They're very adaptable, and they can climb a lot better than people think.
Oh yeah.
A 6-foot fence. Too.
Yeah, I have them on camera in our backyard. Yeah, they jumped our 6-foot fence.
6-foot fence doesn't do it anymore. It's probably got to be 8 feet, and it's got to have a roller at the top, because what they do is they get their front paws up and they push themselves up with their hind paws and get over. Put a roller up there, they can't get over. See, we cover everything here.
Yeah,
on Coffee and Donuts. How to keep coyotes out of your yard. Fix a door.
There's got to be a roller. You can't do a man trap because you can get very big trouble for that.
Oh, what kind of trap?
Man trap.
Oh.
Yeah, whenever you booby trap your place, they call them man traps.
Really?
Very illegal. Very illegal. Because they're indiscriminate. Like, a kid can get hurt by them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I've heard that some people say, I poured wolf urine around the edge of my property. It's like, yeah, that doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, because now you're going to be calling over the wolves.
I don't know if we have any wolves nearby.
What if it was like a sexy wolf and like all the other wolves are like, hey, what's up? Where's
So, yeah, and with our yard, we have fruit trees. And so we have to have these bait station for rats to make sure that we don't have rats coming around to get at the fruit. And but, we also need to know that if there are going to be rats, coyotes will take care of the rats. But nobody really takes care of the coyotes. So,
that's true.
Yeah.
They're kind of the apex around here. I mean, we have mountain lions, but they don't really come down here. It's really the coyotes are the apex.
We got them too. Yeah. Teresa Blakemore wants to know, any tips for keeping bears out, though?
Bears don't live where bears are.
Yeah. Bears don't really, they just kind of do what they feel like doing.
Don't leave food anywhere that you want them to not be.
Yeah. I just
went to Yosemite. They told us about that. They said, do not leave food in your car. Don't leave food wrappers in your car. Yeah. Don't leave anything, like nothing that can be eaten. Because they said that the bears will just open your car like a can opener.
Really?
Because they can get their claws in between the window and the body frame, and then they'll literally just peel your door back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
Bears are strong, and they're faster than humans, and they can climb. It's kind of the only way to survive a bear, apparently, is
be lucky.
Yeah, you have to put your arms out and back away slowly to look bigger. But if they still want to check you out, then the only other thing you can do, fall to the ground, cover your vitals, and hope that they eventually get bored with you.
And I mean, if it's a polar bear, you're done.
You're done. You're screwed. What the hell are you doing near a polar bear anyway? It's my
dying,
question.
Apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as the animals you can encounter, I don't know if I would rather encounter a great white shark or a grizzly bear. I don't know what my odds are of each.
Oh, grizzly bear. Great white shark, you have no chance of escaping that at all.
Well, they just might not be hungry,
True.
Yeah, but true. Still, the great white sharks usually don't eat people. They take one bite and they let go and go, oh, that's not a seal. But that one bite's enough to do you in.
Yeah, that one bite, you lose all your blood.
Yeah.
I need that.
Yeah.
I needed that blood.
Yeah.
For breeding and stuff.
How did we get here? Yeah, rattlesnakes too. We have rattlesnakes. I don't know if I haven't seen them in my yard, but I do know they're about.
I've seen we get lizards and stuff and some snakes, but I've never seen a rattler here at the house.
Yeah. Lizards are fine.
Hike. Yeah, I like lizards.
You want the lizards. They take care of the insects.
I like how they do push-ups. You see them on a rock doing their little lizard push-ups, keeping in shape.
We have lizards. We have hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are awesome.
We have yoked out squirrels.
Really?
Like, our squirrels are massive, and it's because our next door neighbor has a really, really huge avocado tree. The Haas avocado was actually invented about 3 miles from my house.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I live right next to the little area where the Haas avocado was originated.
They're very healthy.
So they grow natively here. And our neighbor has a massive Haas avocado tree. And so all of the squirrels around our house, they grow up eating avocados.
Wow.
So they're so proteined out that they look like roid squirrels. Like, I'm not even kidding. The squirrels are probably about this big, not counting the tail.
Wow.
The tail itself is like a whole other foot. It's crazy.
Plus, they have very good HDL cholesterol, so good for them.
Oh, yeah.
It's important.
They'll be around for a long time.
Yeah, my daughter's afraid of squirrels. And she loves cute little things. But, yeah, the squirrels can they can kind of scare you sometimes,
Yeah.
They'll dart out from nowhere.
Yeah. My dog wants to get him.
Yeah.
He goes and sees him.
Well, folks, I've surpassed my usual coffee and donuts time, but of course,
hey man, this is fun.
I know we chat about whatever here. That's how I roll. I don't have any rhyme or reason. I just let the chat sort of throw out random questions. So we've covered. Let's see, we've basically covered everything from voice acting to cultural politics to genetic predispositions to car maintenance, and now to the various flora and fauna of our environments. So unless anyone else has anything to add. Perplexity was asking Josh, would you like a signpost in my Minecraft realm? Oh yeah,
a signpost in your Minecraft realm? Sure.
Yeah. That's the thing about Minecraft. You just create your entire world, don't you? And just create games within it.
Yeah. I mean, it can be as complicated or as simple as you want. Have you ever played it?
My kids love it, and they love Roblox. And I've played it with them, but I don't have the patience for it. All I do is want to go around and smash things. Yeah.
But I love to I actually really enjoy relaxing in Minecraft. My wife and I will play.
Yeah.
Where we have a world that we've started up. And when you start up a world, it's random, it's randomly generated, but it's persistent once it's generated.
Okay.
So when you go, you could go and walk in one direction for an hour. Mm-hmm. It'll always be the same once it's rendered, so it remembers it. But it's constantly expanding your world. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of different biomes. There's all kinds of weather. It's like you can literally get lost in this area. You can dig down and find a whole massive cave system. It's fun to just kind of go into that world and explore. And I mean, my wife's a gamer, so we go in there. We just look for stuff, mine stuff, build our own houses, build all kinds of stuff. It's relaxing. It's a fun way to just kind of escape this world and go into this one and make it however you want.
Well, now when you get into Minecraft, if you're not getting into someone's particular server, do you just get into an open server and start creating the world, or do you get into a world that's already been rendered?
You can play locally.
Okay.
You can play locally and just start your own game save, and you can have as many game saves as you want. Each one of those game saves is a completely different world.
See, that's why I haven't played, because I know it would suck me in and I'd never get out.
Yeah, just have one save. Just have one save that you play every now and then. Hey, I mean, you could even start it up and come join our world and just run around with us for a little bit.
See, that's the thing. I have so many other things that you love to figure out how to fix things, right? And I'm sitting here thinking I've got these creative projects I want to finish. I've written a book and I've got to finish polishing it so I can have it ready to release to the world to the 7 people that are going to want to buy it, right? And I'm thinking as I'm playing Minecraft, I could have been fixing up this one creative thing that I have to have done in time. That for me, video games are this wonderful time waster.
Yeah, they're a huge time sink.
Yeah, exactly. And I've constantly, because like you, I can suddenly become intensely focused on something to the detriment of all else.
Yes.
And I realize, where did the time go? Why is the moon out when I just had breakfast?
Why is the moon out on today, Friday, and where did Thursday and Wednesday and Tuesday go?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I tell myself, all right, be very careful what habits you build, because you're going to be stuck with them.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah, now they're saying, oh, Chris, Roger, Johnny, Josh in a Minecraft session. One of these days, one of these things you'll notice is that on the DM thread we have for Apex, every now and then we'll try and get a couple of us into an Apex match. So if you've played Apex...
I've never played Apex, but, I mean,
Okay.
it's first-person shooter, right?
Yeah. Battle Royale.
My favorite one was... I'm dating myself here, but you know what? It's still the best first-person shooter game that's ever been put out, and that is Unreal Tournament 99.
Unreal Tournament 99.
Best first-person shooter that's ever been released.
Okay.
And the reason I say this, it has like a limitless collection of mods, skins, and maps with the ability to make your own, and a community of people that still make them even to this day, and it's free.
Wow.
There's no DLC. There's no DLC. There's no microtransactions. Or no, there is DLC, but you know, there's no microtransactions. It's
Right.
like, everything is free. Everything is free. Somebody makes a map, they put it up, you play the map. Somebody makes a skin, you download the skin, you play it.
That's interesting.
Somebody makes a mod, you download the mod, you play the mod. That's it.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It's a great game. Unreal Tournament. It's on PC.
Oh, so it's on PC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they released it like on the Dreamcast way back then.
Wow.
But I mean, it's you gotta play keyboard and mouse.
See, I'm a controller guy. I bought a PC for when I was streaming more, and now it's just sitting here because I don't want to mess with it because I have a Mac, and I try to retrofit everything to work on my Mac, even if it means I have to work twice as hard to make
my
the
Mac
software.
is my gaming machine as well. I have a virtual machine, so if I have to run any PC software, then I'll run it in a virtual machine.
See, I don't even know what a virtual machine is. This is
It's
why
just a software. It's a software machine. So like basically, it runs Windows in a container as an app on your machine. It emulates it.
Right.
So basically, you just run Windows on here, and then you just run whatever you need to run in Windows, but on your Mac.
Interesting.
You run Windows in a window.
See, this is too much information for me. It's stuff I'm going to explore, and I'm going to realize, wow, now I have more stuff that I'm going to put in my office. See, you're corrupting me with knowledge.
Yes, I am. I hope to do more of it.
Yes. Well, yeah. Stay tuned. You're going to be getting a DM from me. Okay, how do I do that virtual thingamajig again? Because I'm.
Oh yeah, dude, I'll hook you up, man. Any tech questions you have, let me know.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have them. Colorfinger can only help me so much. My mod here. All right, guys. Where can people find you? I know you're on Twitter, but I know you have other social media.
I am on Twitter at Josh Keaton. I am on Instagram at Space Padre. I am on TikTok as the Josh Keaton. I am on YouTube as just Josh Keaton. Cameo, Josh Keaton. Twitch, Space Padre. I think that's it. So it's either going to be Josh Keaton or Space Padre or the Josh Keaton. Josh Keaton is only on TikTok.
See, all that social media.
It's hard. I'll take like sabbaticals from social media because it's like there's so many things to remember and so many things to post, and it just becomes like a whole other job. And like you know, you got all these other things that you want to do.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It's difficult for me to juggle that many things, and so instead of doing a bunch of things, or I don't know, a relatively small number of things on a bunch of sites, I thought, how about I just do more on one or two? Of course,
yes.
Yeah, it becomes more niche, but everything is niche these days. There is a specific piece of content out there for you, no matter what you're into. Somebody has already done content on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so whatever it is. If you want dad jokes and car repair, apparently Josh Keaton is your man.
I'm the guy. I'm your dude.
How did you get into dad jokes being a thing? Is it just you discovered this about yourself?
I've always told shitty jokes. I sometimes say that I became a dad just so I could tell the jokes.
Aha.
Now I have an excuse. Now my sense of humor has an excuse. Because before it was just bad humor, and now it's dad humor. So I've moved it up. I've upscaled it.
I have lived the cliche where I used to be a comic, and comics is usually the cool person in the room, the hip person in the room. And when you have kids, you realize that is no longer you.
Yeah, that's no longer you.
Does not matter how cool you think you are. As soon as you try to use a phrase that you've overheard, as soon as they hear it coming out of you, they just give you this look.
It has
Dad.
the taint of authority.
Yeah, the
what it
taint
is.
of
The taint
not
of
my
authority.
generation. You have bespoiled what
Yes.
we once thought was cool, Dad. Thanks a lot.
You have bespoiled what was bespoke.
Yes, exactly. It's like,
Never speak of it again.
yeah. But then the trade-off is every now and then you'll play one of the songs that you grew up with that you love, and you'll hear them say, "What's that?"
Oh yeah.
Well, let me tell you about Van Halen, son.
I've actually really enjoyed watching reaction videos of like, because I grew up listening to like '90s R&B and hip hop, so like that's like my oldies,
Right.
And so like watching kids react to that now and be like, oh, this is awesome. I'm like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
freaking amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better
Folks-
than all that music that you kids are listening to now.
This-
There's
well,
one word choruses and your auto tuners and
my wife is a singer and came up in the music industry, and she said the big difference now is, and John Mayer said this too. John Mayer said he believes that the '80s was the last great era of music for him because he thought you had more music per square inch in your average song than you had going forward because technology came along and people were able to do more with less.
I agree.
Yeah. And she said now if you hear a great song from the 70s, you realize that would be chopped up into 3 different songs now because it would have 3 major parts of it that were all excellent. Now she says producers would say, well, each one of those is its own song. A song only
Right.
needs one thing now and we'll build around that. Whereas,
Bohemian Rhapsody would have been like 10 songs.
yeah, exactly. I don't know what it would have been. They probably, like you said, that would have been a 10-part series.
Yeah, that would have been an album.
Yeah, that would have been an entire album. They just would have chopped it
A
up.
whole mixtape.
Yeah. That I imagine eventually something will come back around though. Where people say, "I'm learning how to play this instrument because it feels cool in my hands instead of a screen," and
There's
maybe you're
always
gonna
a
have people
rejection
rediscovering
whenever-
it.
After a while, whenever there's like a new thing that takes over, there always ends up being a rejection.
Yeah, exactly. So we've called it, folks. All our old stuff is going to be your cool stuff soon.
That's right. That's
Right. Yeah. Well, we're 2 hours and 40 minutes in. I think I'm gonna get a spatula and pry myself up out of this chair, and
I think it's time for another donut.
yeah,
Person.
eat. I
For
say
lunch.
that. Yeah, I
Lunch.
say my cheat day is done, but that's a lie. I don't want to lie to you folks. I don't want to lie to you lovely people of the community here. I'm going to eat more crap today because by God, I earned it. All right? That's what I do. Monday through Friday are clean.
We
Saturday.
talked hard today.
Yeah.
We talked really hard.
We burn so many tooth calories
Yep.
that, what are you going to do?
My cheeks got to work out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take that out of context.
Josh, thank you so much. Check out Josh on all of his media, the TikTok, the Twitter,
The gram.
the Insta, the IG, all of it. All right, he's got it all, and you'll enjoy it. And in the meantime, go play some online mobile, play Fade. All right, let him
Yes.
know that Fade is a character that people enjoy. I know my son loves playing him, so. This is the new chapter in his VO career. Fade, all right, right here.